The rise, fall, and rise of a knight, as the old age saying goes. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Bruce Wayne, our very own Batman, had such a character-defining arc in his life, where he was broken, revived, and had to fight to rise as the protector of Gotham again. His greatest foes were thrown at him to weaken him in body and spirit, and then the ultimate foe striked, Bane. Bruce's life changed entirely when he had to rely upon a stranger who had yet to prove himself in the line of fire. In today's video, we delve into the burning lore of the Knight Saga. So, my knights, let's embark on the crusade of a lifetime. But before we begin, we have a small request. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channel. It's a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Chapter 1. The Sword of Azrael, the Fallen Executioner. It all began on a fateful night when Ludovic Jean-Paul Valley, known as Azrael, the Avenging Angel, was struck by armor-piercing rounds, fatally wounded by Carlton Lahar, a Gotham crime boss. During his escape, he disfigured Lahar with his fiery sword of death, but innocent lives were tragically lost in a parade below. Bleeding profusely, he managed to reach his son, Jean-Paul Valley, a student at Gotham University. He instructed Jean-Paul to dispose of his body in the trash and await contact from the Order, as Jean-Paul was destined to succeed him as Azrael. The innocent deaths during the parade intrigued Batman, sparking his investigation into Lahar, Azrael, and the Order of Dumas. He learned that the Order was once a part of the Knights Templar, who defected and formed their own group under their leader, Dumas. They lived off pillages and loots and vanished sometime in the 15th century. Meanwhile, Jean-Paul was taken to an isolated cottage in Lucerne, Switzerland, where Nomos, his new mentor, used Saint Dumas' sigil to unlock the deep-seated prowess and training instilled in him by the system of the Order of Saint Dumas. While Jean-Paul underwent rigorous training in Switzerland, Bruce and Alfred followed Lahar to Lucerne, where Lahar intended to purchase illegal arms from Renard. However, as Batman arrived at the location, Lahar fired a rocket at the cottage where Jean-Paul and Nomos were, causing devastating destruction in the vicinity. The Birthright. The blast from the rocket obliterated everything and caused Bruce and Alfred's chopper to crash, but they managed to escape. Lahar and Renault escaped narrowly from the avalanche that followed the blast. Jean-Paul and Nomos saved themselves by moving into the underground blast-proof bunker of the cottage. Donning his bat costume, Bruce hurried to investigate the demolished cottage. Meanwhile, Lahar began experiencing visions of the demon Beast, leading him to behead Renault. Jean-Paul faced off against Batman in the guise of Azrael. However, he lost both the battle and his sword, prompting a swift escape with Nomos in a hovercraft. Emulating the appearance of Lord Demon Beast, Lahar underwent a transformation, while Jean-Paul upgraded his Azrael armor. Nomos disclosed that Lahar, the Order's treasurer, had absconded with their funds from a Swiss account, influenced by Beast, compelling Jean-Paul's father to target him for elimination. Meanwhile, Bruce and Alfred figured out the locations of all the members of the Order from the destroyed base. He disclosed that throughout generations, Jean-Paul's family had all borne the mantle of Azrael. He deduced that Lahar was about to assassinate all the members of the Order, and they had to stop him. They rushed to a hospital to save an old member of the Order, while Bruce and Alfred tracked them. However, Lahar was already there. He fired relentlessly and killed the old man while throwing Jean-Paul off the hospital building. The Dark Knight. Bruce and Alfred witnessed Jean-Paul hit the ground and lie unconscious. While Alfred tended to him, Bruce jumped into the hospital to confront Lahar. Bruce went to the medical storage room behind Lahar, where Lahar ambushed him and doused him with drugs and chemicals. Engaging in a hand-to-hand struggle, Bruce fought valiantly but succumbed to the effects of the substances. Intrigued by discovering the bat costume beneath Bruce's attire, Lahar opted to abduct Bruce to further his malevolent schemes. Despite Alfred's attempt to thwart Lahar during his escape, Lahar incapacitated him and fled. Ultimately, Jean-Paul and Nomos rescued Alfred. Realizing Bruce Wayne's alter ego as Batman, Lahar aimed to exploit Bruce as well. Initially, he attempted to break Bruce's psyche, but his efforts were futile due to Bruce's resilient training. Donning Bruce's bat costume, Lahar plotted to eliminate members of the Order disguised as Batman. In their base, Alfred helped Jean-Paul with his wound. He wanted Jean-Paul's assistance to rescue Bruce, but they didn't have any clue. Jean-Paul deduced Lahar's pattern, recognizing a westward movement across Europe with his victims. Anticipating Mr. Harcourt as Lahar's next target, they endeavored to intercept Lahar at Harcourt's mansion. However, Lahar had already struck Harcourt in the guise of Batman by the time Jean-Paul, Alfred, and Nomos arrived on the scene. The Avenging Angel. Jean-Paul, now garbed in the Azrael armor, went on a murdering rampage inside Harcourt's mansion. He followed no rules when his system kicked in. It was as if he wasn't himself, but embodied the Avenging Angel in his true form. He sliced ruthlessly through all of Harcourt's henchmen and guard dogs like they were lifeless pieces of meat. Nomos cheered and guided him, reveling in the drastic transformation of the otherwise timid Jean-Paul when adorned in the Azrael armor. However, Alfred was taken aback by this stark shift in Jean-Paul's nature. Jean-Paul spotted Lahar in the bat costume and tried to stop him, but hesitated when he saw Harcourt dying in front of him. Ultimately, he pursued Lahar but lost him. Nomos chastised Jean-Paul, dismissing his concern for human life as a weakness. Jean-Paul and Alfred went through all the known locations of the Order members and found that Lahar, once a member, owned an oil refinery near Houston. While they rushed toward the location, Bruce was attempting to taunt Lahar and break free. Lahar, fueled by offense at Bruce's slight toward Lord Demon Beast, resolved to kill him. Yet, just as he advanced to harm Bruce, Azrael intervened. Lahar started shooting and ignited a fire within the refinery. Though Bruce managed to break free, he succumbed to weaknesses, falling unconscious. As Nomos urged Azrael to abandon them and leave them to perish in the flames, Alfred implored the person behind the armor to save Bruce. Azrael, relenting, wrapped Bruce in a fireproof cape, and with Alfred and Nomos fled the inferno as Lahar appeared to be consumed by the fire. Ultimately, Nomos reprimanded Azrael for neglecting the duties of an avenging angel. However, Azrael removed his helm, accepted his human side, and reaffirmed that he was not an angel. His name was Jean-Paul Valley, and that was his father's name too. Little did he know of the responsibilities that awaited him. Chapter 2. The Vengeance of Bane, Forged in Darkness. After an unsuccessful attempt to overthrow the Republic of Santa Prisca, the insurgents met dire fates, either death or imprisonment under the ruling junta. Among them was a pregnant woman tied to a revolutionary cause. She, heavily expecting, was confined to Peña Duro, where she gave birth to a son. Abiding by archaic laws, the child was mandated to serve the father's sentence, sentenced from birth to a life behind bars. Within the prison walls, the boy matured amidst a harsh reality, witnessing the grim and ruthless aspects of existence. He encountered crime, violence, and death firsthand. His fragile mother gradually faded, succumbing to the harsh conditions until her body was callously disposed of in Punto de Tiburon, destined as shark feed. Left without a guardian, the boy was cast into the general population, where one criminal sought to manipulate him, only to be thwarted by another named Trog. Their altercation led to the boy's fall from a great height, plunging him into a coma. During his comatose state, he experienced vivid dreams of a gigantic and powerful figure, his future self, a towering man advising him to confront his fear, the fear which presented itself as a colossal bat. Upon awakening after 31 days, the boy underwent a profound change. He mercilessly slew the criminal who sought to enlist him. The brutality of the act led to his isolation in solitary confinement for a decade. Within the prison, he came to be known as Bane. The fire rises. Throughout his 10-year confinement, Bane meticulously honed both his mental acuity and physical prowess. Engaged in meditation, he envisioned conquering his terror, the imposing bat-like humanoid haunting his psyche. Upon his release, he asserted his influence within the prison, accompanied by an aging physician known as Zombie, Trog, and an American criminal called Bird. Bird took it upon himself to educate Bane, introducing him to the lore of Gotham and its enigmatic guardian, Batman, an intriguing revelation for Bane. It seemed as though Batman personified his fear, a challenge Bane felt compelled to overcome by eliminating the Dark Knight, believing this conquest would grant him dominion over the world. Immersing himself in the wisdom contained within hundreds of books, Bane augmented his knowledge. Concurrently, he willingly participated in the Venom Project, a serum fatal to other prisoners but one that rendered Bane stronger and more resilient. Eventually reliant on Venom for his physical capabilities, Zombie strategically halted Bane's heartbeat during a Venom session, presuming him deceased. The guards callously threw his body in shark-infested waters. However, Bane's determination and strength proved unparalleled as he slew the shark with his bare hands before returning to liberate his comrades. Arriving at Gotham alongside his allies, Bane meticulously observed Batman, even going as far as eliminating criminals targeting the Caped Crusader. Upon their encounter, Bane vowed to break Batman, promising that the day would come when the Dark Knight would scream his name. With this declaration, he departed, subsequently pledging to his team that after breaking Batman, he would ascend to rule over Gotham. Chapter 3. Countdown to Nightfall. The Burning City. Arsonists set ablaze Wayne Enterprises buildings, housing various tenants across Gotham City. While investigating one of his properties, Bruce Wayne encountered Vicky Vale. His attempt to ask her out failed, leading him to glimpse a reflection of a man overwhelmed by self-doubt, teetering on the edge. It was as if he was about to break. The strain of his dual existence was taking a toll on his mental and physical well-being. He wondered how long and till what end he could continue being Batman and Bruce Wayne both. As Batman, he discovered a charred mask at a crime scene and launched an investigation. Concurrently, he tasked his financial director, Lucius Fox, with probing the corporate realm. Batman and Robin deduced that the architect of the arsons was none other than Roman Sionis, also known as Black Mask. Sionis had united criminals under the banner of the False Face Society, using them to carry out the destructive fires. Batman disguised himself as a criminal and joined the Society. With the help of Robin, he was able to thwart the Society goons from burning another building. However, when he returned to Black Mask's lair disguised as the goon, he found that Black Mask had already kidnapped Lucius Fox, intending to use him as his hostage to facilitate his nefarious plan. The War of the Faces. It was revealed that Black Mask wanted to get revenge from Bruce Wayne because it was due to him that he lost all his fortune. He'd also kidnapped another Wayne executive named Howard Rambeau. When Fox refused to help him, Mask took out a gun to shoot him, but his accomplice Lady Circe stopped him. Batman, now disguised as Skullface, came to know that the False Face Society was planning to bring extortion and drugs to Gotham, and that they were planning to go to war the next day. Batman told Gordon to raid Sharky's pool hall the next day to nab at least 1/3 of the society. Batman kept guard, listening to Black Mask's plan the entire night that day, and it was quite evident that the prolonged stress, sleeplessness, and sustained trauma had taken a lot out of him. He was losing control over his body and mind. Despite these challenges, he infiltrated Mask's hideout as Skullface the next evening. Just as Mask was about to shoot Lucius, Bruce's cover was blown. Circe prevented Mask from firing at Bruce. Bruce swiftly donned his batsuit, confronting Mask and Tattoo. Though Tattoo initially gained the upper hand, Batman eventually subdued him. Mask escaped by substituting Rambeau's body as his own. The police were able to capture the Society goons at Sharky's. Concerned about Batman's well-being, Gordon raised the issue, to which Batman simply replied, "Just tired." But in his mind, he was still pondering on his failure of not being able to end the impending war. The menace of Metalhead. The War of the Faces had only been momentarily halted, lingering until the capture of Black Mask. Batman continued his war on crime and his relentless pursuit of Black Mask. Despite his severe sleep deprivation, pervasive bodily pain, and a continuously bleeding broken nose. Both Alfred and Tim shared equal concerns about his condition. Alfred believed that crime fighting was intrinsic to Batman's nature, and that unless an external force intervened, Batman would persist in his crusade. Simultaneously, a mysterious criminal named Metalhead arrived in Gotham, leaving a trail of violence while hunting for Black Mask. At the Gotham Cemetery's Sionis family grave, Batman encountered Metalhead. Metalhead disclosed a desire to join the False Face Society, but since Batman had incapacitated Black Mask, Metalhead aimed to eliminate him. A fierce fight ensued, with Metalhead inflicting severe wounds on Batman, pushing him to the brink of hallucination due to pain and blood loss. However, within that haze of agony, Batman found his footing in that trance of pain, unleashing a frenzied assault that incapacitated Metalhead. As Batman teetered on the edge of consciousness, Robin and Alfred eventually located him. They restrained Metalhead and transported the injured Batman to the Batcave for urgent medical attention. The horror of Headhunter. Batman's mental and physical state lay shattered. He was barely able to move to his mansion's bed from the cave. The following day, upon receiving his laboratory results, his physician conveyed that the majority of Bruce's afflictions were psychosomatically induced, severely impacting his physical well-being. The amalgamation of stress, exhaustion, mental fatigue, overall malaise, and psychological struggles required holistic healing. The doctor suggested Bruce meet with Dr. Chandra Kinsolving, but Bruce declined. He stopped going out for an entire week and directed Fox to take up a more decision-making role and handle the business end of Wayne Enterprises. Because of his health, Bruce began feeling irritated by everything. He even refuted Tim for wearing his Robin costume indoor. Bruce was tired to that extent where he couldn't even maintain his usual demeanor as Batman. Simultaneously, a convict named Morelli initiated a bounty on Gordon, swiftly taken on by a highly efficient mercenary known as Headhunter. Despite his wife Sarah's objection, Gordon resumed active police duty. Despite her reluctance to seek assistance, Sarah ultimately reached out to Batman and requested his help for Jim. Knowing that his friend was in danger, Batman rushed to save Gordon from Headhunter, barring all his trauma. Headhunter attacked Gordon, but Batman reached there in time. Headhunter was not happy to see Batman and he attacked him. Batman retorted, his skills numbed down by his pain. He was ultimately able to incapacitate Headhunter. Gordon arrested him and thanked Sarah, letting her know that Batman saved him. Sarah ultimately thanked Batman, but told him to stay out of their lives. Batman continued his crusade with one more added pain in his heart. The induction of Azrael. In the Batcave, Batman briefed Robin about Jean-Paul and his alter ego, Azrael. He aimed to guide the young Jean-Paul toward a purposeful life, harnessing his programming by the order of St. Dumas for the betterment of mankind, rather than allowing him to remain a lethal assassin. Batman instructed Fox to extend an offer for Jean-Paul to join Waycorps security force, while enlisting Robin to mentor him. However, as Batman attempted to ascend the stairs to his mansion, he collapsed. He was later found by Alfred and helped to bed. The following day, Jean-Paul seamlessly joined his new role at Wayne Corps. Later that evening, Tim met with him, revealing his identity and presenting Jean-Paul with a costume fashioned after Metalhead's design. Instead of a sword, Tim equipped him with an Asian staff and provided training on utilizing the costume's gadgets. They embarked on reconnaissance duty, surveilling Tony Checo and his biker gang. Together, they subdued the entire gang when they tried to rob Wayne deliverables. But Tim remained wary of Jean-Paul's occasional lapses into the system. Meanwhile, Bruce sought aid from Dr. Chandra Kinsolving to address the trauma he was grappling with. The coming of the General. A teenager named Ulysses Hadrian Armstrong, shaped by his military academy background, delved deep into military history, mastering the art of warfare. Opting to depart from the academy, he set his sights on Gotham City, driven to birth a dangerous army. In Gotham, he assumed control of diverse street gangs like the Bengal Street Raiders, uniting them as his war dogs. With a growing following, he orchestrated the theft of weaponry from a National Guard armory, creating turmoil to intimidate rival gangs. His adeptness in military strategy earned him the title, the General. Efforts by Batman and the police to quell the rising violence faltered in the face of the War Dogs' advanced weaponry. A gunfire attack from the War Dogs on Batman and the GCPD resulted in a bullet tearing through Batman. Although Batman was sewn up by Alfred, the pain just added up. Determined to swell their ranks, the General and his troops devised a plan to enlist members from rival gangs. Their scheme expanded to assaulting Black Mask's gang, the Gotham City Police Department, and included a scheme to eliminate Batman. The city grappled with a dire threat as the General strategically aimed to expand his influence through sheer force. The escalation of force. Despite nursing a fresh bullet wound and enduring freezing rain, Batman vigilantly surveyed the territory of the bad boy runners. Suddenly, an explosion coupled with gunfire signaled the onset of an assault on the gang by the War Dogs, targeting Bojack and his crew. Batman rushed to intervene, but Bojack took a kid as his hostage and threw him off a tall building. While saving the kid, Batman tore his sutures and started bleeding profusely. Weakened by his efforts, Batman became vulnerable to an attack from the General, who capitalized on the opportunity to overpower him. Victorious, the General plotted his next move, an assault on the Black Mask gang. During his interrogation of false faces, one steadfastly refused to divulge information and met a grim fate. However, the second informant revealed Black Mask's absence after Batman's decimation of most of his gang, much to the General's satisfaction as he plotted to target the final adversary, the Gotham City Police Department. Meanwhile, adopting a guise as a homeless person, Batman covertly investigated the General's base of operations. Upon arrival, he found the location deserted, save for a detailed model depicting a military-style assault on the 43rd Precinct building in South Lintown. Realizing the absence indicated a potential imminent attack, Batman inferred that the plan was set to unfold that very night. The attack on Precinct 43. The General and the War Dogs launched a comprehensive assault on Lintown's precinct, aiming to seize the drugs and weapons under its custody. This raid would instantly elevate them to the most dominant force in Gotham. Despite the policemen inside locking down the station and attempting to hide from the advanced artillery, the War Dogs forcefully breached the door and stormed in. Meanwhile, Batman arrived on the scene. Operating the Batmobile remotely, he swiftly entered the building. Just as the General and his men tried to secure the weapons, Batman struck. The General's scheme was foiled, his henchmen scared and fleeing. In the chaos, the General injured Batman and fled. Witnessing his army's arrest, he plotted another assault, only to be astonished by Batman appearing right behind him. Batman subdued the General, leaving him for the authorities, warning that after his trial and sentence, a different form of justice awaited him, as he'll be 18. Unbeknownst to Batman, Bane's operative Bird had monitored the conflict and reported to Bane on Batman's performance. Bane concluded it was time for Batman to move beyond these street-level adversaries and confront deadlier foes. As the conflict subsided, Alfred discovered Bruce unconscious on the mansion's couch, still dressed in his Bat costume, breaching his "no costumes inside" rule. The day break. Alfred once again assisted Bruce to his bed, gently reminding him of the strict no costumes rule within the mansion. Concerned for Bruce's well-being, he urged him to take a break from his nightly escapades and tend to matters at Wayne Court. Following Alfred's advice, Bruce delegated the oversight of Gotham to Robin and Azrael for a few nights. The following day, Bruce delved into a meeting with Mr. Roth, a key stakeholder in Project Echo, a venture undertaken by Wayne Tech. To his surprise, he discovered that Wayne Corp was responsible for only one facet of Project Echo, with two other companies handling separate components intended for assembly at a military facility. That same night, Robin and Azrael detected a break-in at Wayne Towers. Rushing to the scene, they interrupted a group of thugs attempting to remove a safe from a wall. During the confrontation, Azrael was on the verge of fatally injuring one of the assailants with a saw, triggered by his system. However, Robin intervened just in time to prevent a tragedy. Amidst these events, a villain known as Cypher targeted and killed representatives from two companies, Armaco and Unitronics. His next intended victim, Lucius Fox. The catharsis of Killer Croc. After enduring a relentless 9-hour downpour in Gotham, Croc was swept away to an abandoned factory. Surviving on street rats for months, hunger and fever fueled his vivid hallucinations. One fateful evening, his delusions spiraled out of control, morphing people and inanimate objects into his childhood bullies. He went on a violent rampage across Gotham, which was even difficult for the police to stop. Meanwhile, Bruce met with Dr. Chandra Kinsolving at the Botanical Gardens. She recommended a week-long prescription of sedatives to facilitate physical healing before addressing his mental well-being. A fleeting closeness emerged between them as they delved into Bruce's personal life. Adhering to the advice, Bruce took the sedatives and drifted into sleep. Tim reflected that the police and the public would like to see Batman stopping Croc. But as Bruce was resting, he decided to dress Sean Paul as Batman and take him to fight Croc. At the same time, Bane learned about how Croc tried to kill Batman before and decided to break Croc to prove his superiority. Jean-Paul, now garbed as Batman, and Tim went to Eden Park to stop Croc. They were holding up well, but then Croc caught and started beating up Jean-Paul. Just then, Bane intervened and broke both the arms of Croc and left him bloodied up. He was about to attack Robin and Jean-Paul, but then he realized that Jean-Paul wasn't the original Batman and just walked away. And while all of this happened, the real Batman, Bruce Wayne, was having serious fever dreams in his bed. The riveting riddle. Despite battling health issues, Bruce defied his condition when the bat signal shined, forcing himself into action. Meanwhile, Robin and Jean-Paul Valley struggled with doubts about convincing Commissioner Gordon of Jean-Paul's authenticity as Batman. Suddenly, Bruce emerged in costume, dismissing Jean-Paul and taking charge. The Riddler had struck, engaging Batman and the Commissioner in a cryptic riddle. Unbeknownst to them, they were overheard by Bane and his cohorts. Bane had already discovered Batman's deteriorating health. Bane seized the challenge, using the Riddler as a test for Batman by solving the riddle first and enhancing the Riddler with venom. Despite Robin's warning about Bane, Batman went to solve the riddle alone and ordered Robin to go home. Alone in the Batmobile, Batman cracked the riddle, racing to the clock tower above One Gotham Plaza. Simultaneously, Bane deciphered the riddle. As the Riddler triggered an explosive, Bane injected him with venom-laden darts, imposing a 48-hour ultimatum of venom strength. Batman arrived amidst the ticking clock and fought the now-enhanced Riddler. Despite Batman's efforts, the Riddler escaped, leaving Batman to disable the detonator. Unveiling venom-laced darts, Batman suspected Bane's involvement. The following night, the Riddler posed a new challenge, prompting Bane's henchmen to race Batman in solving it. Batman intervened in time to prevent the toxic chemical release into Gotham Bay. Amidst the struggle, Bane's henchmen shot the Riddler. However, Batman managed to get Riddler to the shore and call for aid. In Bane's pursuit of new challenges for Batman, Bird suggested a daring plan: freeing inmates from Arkham Asylum. The attack of Cypher. Previously, Cypher's devastating attack and manipulation led to the tragic suicides of top executives at Armaco and Unitronics, triggering a chain reaction that no one saw coming. Lucius Fox stepped into Wayne Tech one fateful morning and stumbled upon an alarming sight: the FBI swooping in to seize all remnants of Project Echo. When Fox called Ra, he was warned to watch his back, as the murders that happened at Armaco and Unitronics were connected to Project Echo, and Fox could be the next potential victim. Meanwhile, Batman, Robin, and Azrael converged at Wayne Towers. Upon discovering the mysterious appearance of an unnamed Muzak repairman at Wayne Tech, Batman swiftly dispatched Azrael to investigate. Batman called Fox's house only to know that he left the house in a state of trance and anger. Azrael uncovered an audio file carrying a concealed subliminal message, a tool employed to control Fox's mind, drawing him to the perilous pier side at United Produce Dock, all orchestrated by Cypher, the enigmatic repairman. Asking Azrael to return home, Batman and Robin raced to the scene. They found Fox on the verge of jumping, under Cypher's hypnotic grip, using his voice intertwined with music to command Fox's actions. Robin subdued Cypher with a kick in the throat. Given Batman's physical condition, he failed to prevent Fox from jumping. Yet, in a heart-stopping moment, Azrael swooped in just in time, snatching Fox from midair, earning Batman's admiration for his commitment. The heroes departed, leaving the aftermath to be handled by the police. But the worst was yet to come. The prison break. In the heart of Gotham, Bane and his crew geared up, orchestrating a heist and robbing weapons while plotting their attack on Arkham Asylum. The assault at the armory left Gordon, Montoya, and Bullock baffled. Meanwhile, on Bird's suggestion, Bane set his sights on the first inmate he would liberate from the asylum, none other than the Joker. With Bane's help, the Joker staged a daring escape, grabbing a weapon, shooting the guards, and setting fellow inmates loose. Bane's crew struck the asylum with a Stinger missile, blowing a hole wide open. While chaos reigned inside, the Joker cornered Jeremiah Arkham, booby-trapping a shotgun pointed at his head. Outside, Bane's men dumped weapons, arming the escaped inmates. Gordon sprang into action, rallying the tactical unit and waiting desperately for Batman's response. Despite warnings from Mayor Kroll, Gordon stood firm against orders to shoot on sight, betting on a different approach. Batman had ordered Robin to wait and, despite his own struggles, entered Arkham Asylum alone, hoping to save the day. He fought through the inmates like a force of nature and helped save the guards. He also saved Jeremiah, who was left shaken from the encounter, but Batman was unable to stop the Joker as he fled the scene. With tensions mounting, Bane's crew unleashed missiles at the police blockade, setting loose a tidal wave of chaos and inmates. Gordon wrestled with his decisions while Batman threw out a bitter wail of defeat and disappointment. The stakes were now higher than ever as Gotham danced on the brink of utter bedlam. The challenges that were yet to come would decimate the son of Gotham in mind, body, and soul. So began the fall of the Dark Knight. Chapter 4, KnightFall, the Broken Bat, the Hatter, and the Freak. Mad Hatter caught one of the falcons of Bird during surveillance and tagged it with a tracker. He broke into a haberdashery and left invitations to his tea party for anyone who would attend. He also took many hats with him. While Bullock and Montoya tried to decipher the agenda of the asylum break, psychologist Simpson Flanders defended the criminals as a misunderstood bunch. Batman and Robin found one of Hatter's invitations. They tracked Hatter to the Tenniel estate. Batman directed Robin to stand by as backup, as the attendees there would likely be heavily armed. It was revealed that various other villains, gang leaders, and mob bosses had arrived at the tea party. Hatter made them wear his mind-controlling hats. He'd already deduced that someone had freed them to exploit their abilities, and he aimed to outmatch that person by assembling his own team of mind-controlled gangsters. He gave Film Freak a gun and tasked him with locating Bird's Falcon using a homing device, then eliminating whoever was tracking it. Batman intervened to halt Hatter's army and inquired about Bane. However, by that time, Bane had already spotted Film Freak and attacked him, inflicting brutal injuries by breaking his hand and headbutting his face into a bloody pulp. Ultimately, Bane loudly declared his name, allowing Batman and Hatter to hear it over the comms channel before breaking Film Freak's neck and disposing of his lifeless body in the garbage. While Batman was taken aback by this, he continued fighting the goons. Robin intervened just as Hatter was about to shoot Batman. Together, they finally subdued Hatter and his army. Yet, Bane and a host of criminals still remain to be put back behind bars. The Ventriloquist and Amygdala. On the night of the Arkham breakout, the Ventriloquist befriended Amygdala, who was searching for his medicines to keep him calm. The two mentally unstable criminals connected with each other and set out to find Ventriloquist puppet Scarface. Later, Batman and Robin discovered Film Freak's body and observed that Bane had shattered every bone in Freak's body with his bare hands. When the cops arrived, they began patrolling the streets of Gotham, hoping to apprehend any remaining criminals. The Ventriloquist and Amygdala approached a local bar, seeking thugs' assistance in locating Scarface. When the thugs laughed at the Ventriloquist, Amygdala lost control and mercilessly beat them to a pulp. Subsequently, they visited a puppet store in search of Scarface. However, Batman, alerted by the police radio about the break-in, rushed to the location. En route, Robin spotted Bird's Falcon, tailing the Batman, weakened and battered, countered the Ventriloquist. Before he could apprehend him, Amygdala launched an attack. He went into a frenzy, assaulting Batman as if the Dark Knight were a mere puppet. However, Amygdala's frenzy spiraled out of control, leading to severe headaches. Batman seized the opportunity and swiftly rendered him unconscious with a well-placed neck punch. Meanwhile, Robin engaged Bird in a skirmish but was ultimately defeated. Bane ordered Bird to leave Robin and return to base. Batman left the Amygdala for the police while Ventriloquist fled. He laboriously walked through the rain towards the Batmobile, only to hear on the police radio that Zsasz had attacked the Bates School for Women. The murderous Zsasz. Beaten and battered, Batman drove like a madman through the storm towards the Bates School to stop the increasing body count. Meanwhile, Homicide Officer Kitch had already assembled the police force outside the school. They dispatched Officer Benson to extract Officer Axton, who was already inside. However, Zsasz slashed both of their throats, throwing their corpses off the school building, and warned the police against making any further moves. Batman swooped into the building, only to discover that Robin was already present. He immediately ordered Robin to steer clear of Zsasz. As Zsasz was on the verge of killing a woman, Detective Montoya stepped in and pleaded with Zsasz to take her as a hostage instead. Zsasz played along, but just as he did, Batman burst in through a window. Zsasz taunted Batman, suggesting they were alike and insinuating that Batman should take the path of killing to ease his crusade. He reminded Batman that the true predator orchestrating these events to weaken him would strike at the opportune moment. Seizing the chance, Montoya struck Zsasz and fled while Batman pursued him. Zsasz inflicted severe wounds on Batman, but eventually, Batman managed to overpower him. Consumed by frustration and pain, Batman relentlessly attacked Zsasz, slamming his head onto the floor. He might have killed Zsasz if Montoya hadn't intervened, leaving Zsasz for the police. Batman climbed to the roof, succumbing to unconsciousness due to his injuries and the loss of blood, while Bird observed from a distance and reported to Bane. The return of Killer Croc. Having escaped, Killer Croc now resided in Gotham's underground tunnels, his broken hand still in plaster casts, and he hadn't forgotten about Bane. Meanwhile, Robin tracked down Bird and witnessed Bane and his group planning an attack on Batman at the right moment. Despite Robin's repeated attempts to contact Batman, the Dark Knight remained unconscious on the ledge. Subsequently, Bane departed and Robin trailed him. However, while atop a monorail, Robin lost sight of Bane. As Robin pondered Bane's whereabouts, Bane launched a surprise attack on him. Meanwhile, the ventriloquist abducted an attorney, believing the lawyer knew Scarface's location. Later that evening, Batman regained consciousness when Bullock shone a torchlight on him, instantly becoming concerned about Robin's safety. Bane took Robin to an underground tunnel, blindfolded him, and began interrogating him about Batman's whereabouts. At that moment, Croc heard their voices and launched an attack. A fierce altercation erupted between Bane and Croc. Initially, Croc dominated Bane by breaking his venom switch and stopping Bane from injecting venom, but Bane regained control in Croc's arm again. During the skirmish, Robin managed to free himself, yet all three tumbled into a torrent of flowing water below. The clown, the cannibal, and the master of fear. Getting swept away by the torrent of heavy water towards Gotham Harbor, Robin used the last of his strength to stay on top. He employed his staff to lock onto the walls and then used his Robin emblem to latch onto a railing with a rope. He managed to pull himself out of the water but lost Bane and Croc. By that time, Bruce was already home and had cancelled his 5th appointment with Chandra. He had to keep up with the ongoing crime wave. He had no luxury to rest. On the other hand, Kroll threatened Gordon that he would fire him and call in the National Guard if the crime wave wasn't stopped. Meanwhile, Joker took the fear-spreading cannibal, Dr. Cornelius Stirk, under his wing to kidnap Gordon, planning to brainwash him and defect the police department from within. During his nightly patrol, Batman heard that historical figures like JFK and Gandhi were spotted near the Gotham hub. He deduced that it was Stirk, using his hypnotic powers. He went to Stirk's location and found out about Joker's plan involving Gordon. In the other end of the city, the Scarecrow gassed one of Joker's henchmen and learned about his plan. Batman rushed toward the GCPD building, but Stirk had already attacked Gordon, appearing as Batman. Batman managed to subdue Stirk and save Gordon, but Sarah arrived later at the scene and blamed Batman for Gordon's life being at stake. Joker was watching all these events unfold from a nearby building when Scarecrow arrived and extended a hand of partnership toward him. He advised Joker to go after Mayor Kroll rather than Gordon. Impressed, Joker joined Scarecrow and gassed Kroll's mansion at night, brainwashing him to do their bidding and further their nefarious plan. The peril of Poison Ivy. Batman had no choice but to let Firefly escape by tying them together with his bat rope to escape the fire. But Firefly figured it out and cut the rope, sending Batman falling. In a final ditch effort, Batman grabbed onto a fire escape and saved himself. Meanwhile, Jean-Paul, wanting to prove himself after his failure with Killer Croc, dressed up and went out without informing Batman or Robin. After a battered Bruce made his way back to the manor, Alfred reminded him about the big dinner he had to attend as Bruce. With everything that was going on, Bruce anticipated it could get messy. That night, Poison Ivy planned to mess up the dinner while Bane's friends kept an eye on things. At the same time, Joker and Scarecrow made the police go to an amusement park, stating that that was where Mayor Kroll would be. During the dinner, Bruce noticed there were no police guards and got suspicious. Bane saw Bruce out in public and immediately figured out that he was Batman. Suddenly, a gas from a nightshade plant filled up the room and mind-controlled everyone. Poison Ivy showed up and summoned everyone to follow her to Neo Eden. Bruce acted along, getting on a truck. Bane told his friend Bird to follow. Elsewhere, Jean-Paul used up the time by beating up street-level goon. At Neo Eden, Ivy told everyone to give up their stuff. Bruce changed into Batman and stopped Ivy's infected minions, getting tired as he fought them. Bane was happy seeing Batman struggle, but Batman was able to beat Ivy and helped her victims. At the same time, the cops went to the amusement park in search of Kroll, but they were obliterated with a bomb, and Gordon and other officers could do nothing but see them die. At his hideout, Zombie pointed out how Joker took a more direct approach to hurt Batman. Bane assured him that Batman was his to break, and he'll be meeting him soon. The Riddler and the Firefly. The Riddler's henchmen, tired of waiting for their boss's riddles, took matters into their own hands. They chased him through the streets, firing at him. Disheartened and puzzled by GCPD's lack of response to his riddles, the Riddler concocted an idea to reach a wider audience. In the Batcave, Tim expressed frustration about being sidelined in the Firefly case despite doing all the groundwork. Bored, he flipped through TV channels on the Bat computer and stumbled upon the Cassie Josie Rodolfo show. Dr. Flounder was promoting his book when someone began posing riddles. Robin rushed to the studio, realizing it was the Riddler, rigged with dynamite. At the zoo, Batman tracked Firefly, wearing a flame-resistant suit and rebreather. Despite the suit's weight and the intense heat draining his energy, Batman confronted Firefly, Exhausted, Batman fell into a leopard cage, using Halon to stun the cats and continue pursuing Firefly. He caught Firefly, suspending him over an alligator pit with his bat rope. Meanwhile, Robin intervened at the talk show, immobilizing the Riddler's hand to prevent detonation. Harvey Bullock and the bomb squad arrested the Riddler, warning Robin about the risks of acting alone. Elsewhere, the Riddler's gang raided the post office, but got apprehended by Huntress during their escape. Batman quietly sat in a corner of the street, exhausted. He knew he had no stamina left. His mind dwindled as he recounted how many villains he had to face next. How could he defeat the criminals when he didn't have the strength to even stand up? The fear and rage. Batman walked out laboriously from the zoo with internal injuries and broken bones. He had to give up. He knew, but he also knew what would happen to Gotham if he fell, so he persevered. After a change of costume and absolutely no rest, he drove toward Mayor Kroll's mansion to search for clues. Bullock and his team were already there, and he was about to enter the mansion. But the door was booby-trapped and there was a blast just as he was about to enter. Thankfully, Batman swooped in and saved him. Meanwhile, Joker and Scarecrow decided that they'd go big with the next phone call that they would make through Mayor Kroll. Joker and Scarecrow took Kroll to the Gotham River Tunnel and killed off innocent bystanders in their way, leaving a bloody trail of bodies. They made Mayor Kroll call up Gordon and ask to deploy the National Guard at the tunnel. Joker fired a heat-seeker missile and caused a pile-up inside the tunnel, blocking the inside as well as the opening. Joker was totally fixated on Batman, and he knew that he'd arrived before the guards. Just as he predicted, Batman stopped the police and went in alone, but as soon as he went, he was hit with a concentrated dose of Scarecrow's fear gas. Batman lost his mind instantly. He was reminded of Jason and how he was brutally murdered by the Joker. Seeing Joker in front of him, he attacked. He beat Joker black and blue in the fear frenzy, howling Jason's name while doing so. Joker, grappling to put up with the beating, ordered the Scarecrow to shoot the missile at Batman. The missile misfired and hit the tunnel ceiling. The water from Gotham City poured into the tunnel in big waves. Joker and Scarecrow managed to escape, but Batman refused to let Kroll perish. He supported him on his shoulder and staggered forward as the tunnel started filling up with water. The last nail in the coffin. Batman held on to Mayor Kroll as the tunnel flooded. He made Kroll hold onto an iron ladder and swim underwater using his rebreather and discovered a way out through a service tunnel. He wrapped Kroll in his cape and swam through. His rebreather stopped working and he kept holding his breath. He finally reached the service tunnel hatch and used what was left of his strength to open it and get Kroll out, all the while encouraging himself to not give up and leave Gotham at Bane's mercy. When the police found Kroll, he admitted that Batman never gave up. He didn't know how to give up. Batman sought refuge on a nearby rooftop, trying to find a spot to catch his breath and just rest for a while. Unfortunately, Trog attacked. He bear-hugged Batman and broke one of his ribs. Batman knocked him unconscious with a gas capsule, but the damage was already done. Struggling through the pain, Batman turned only to find Zombie attacking him with knives. Batman ambushed Zombie with his cape and subdued him, but then attacked Bird with his falcon and kept hitting Batman. Batman, under a fit of rage, started shouting Bane's name and kept hitting Bird relentlessly, telling him to divulge Bane's purpose. So Batman did what Bane had predicted before. He screamed Bane's name. After incapacitating Bird, he drove the Batmobile in a trance of pain and headed to the Batcave. Bruce climbed the stairs to the manor, only to find Alfred lying unconscious. Just as he was about to help Alfred, he found the orchestrator of the chaos standing face to face right in front of him, Bane, waiting to deliver the final blow, the breaking of Batman. Bruce's death wish had finally come true, standing right in front of him in the form of Bane. Bane assured Batman that he knew that the Bruce Wayne persona was just a mask. He had seen the Bat in his nightmares, fought and defeated it. And now, Bane had come to defeat Batman in person and take what was most coveted to him, Gotham. Bane pumped the venom into his nervous system and got amped up into a gigantic figure. Bruce felt little in front of him. He was afraid as he knew what the venom derivative was capable of. But he was sick of the chaos and bloodbath, so for one last time, he put on his mask and became Batman again. But this was a time of doom, the finale. As Batman jumped towards Bane, he caught him midair and threw him through a glass shelf like a toy. Batman managed to tell Alfred to escape, but he himself couldn't get clear of Bane's attack. Batman started going into shock from the beating. He started getting flashes of the last few months, when his mind and body was rinsed out of him through a series of ordeals. Bleeding, passing out, having nightmares, the villains. Every memory flooded into his mind, but the blows didn't stop. Neither did the kickings and the headbutts. Bane threw Batman through Jason's costume case, and he just lied there, bloodied up. Alfred managed to go call Tim for help and call an ambulance. Bane shouted at Batman to beg for mercy and scream his name, but Batman told him to go to hell. Bane initially wanted to kill Batman, but seeing that Batman wasn't giving up even in the face of death, Bane decided to extend his agony and simply break him and leave him in pain while he took Gotham from him. So he lifted Batman up and brought him down on his knees, shattering his spine. Finally, Bane stopped his rampage. He was content seeing his nightmare lying at his feet, broken in spirit as well as body. The Bat was broken and done. Chapter 5, KnightFall. Who rules the night? The Batman, no more. Bane took Batman's broken body and stood atop a tall building at Robinson Square. The civilians as well as the police gathered below. He screamed and proclaimed that he ruled the streets and Gotham was his. Saying this, he threw Batman's body from the building. Like a lifeless puppet, Batman fell to the ground with blood spattered all over. The cops called for an ambulance and one arrived shortly, but it was Jean-Paul, Tim, and Alfred. While Tim wanted to go to the hospital, Alfred decided to rush to the cave, as he didn't want to deviate from Batman's crusade by giving away his identity. Meanwhile, Gordon, heartbroken, just waited for a sign to tell him that his friend was okay, if at all he could call him a friend. At Joker's hideout, Joker and Scarecrow fell into an argument and Scarecrow dosed him with his fear gas. Joker, being immune to the fear gas, beat Scarecrow with a chair and left him unconscious. Elsewhere, ventriloquist puppet Scarface shot at his replacement Socko. Alfred stabilized Bruce, but he was still in a coma, and with the internal injuries and the swelling of the spinal tissue, Bruce's fever was not coming down. Alfred directed Tim to get a drug named Decadron to reduce the spinal swelling. He disclosed only to Jean-Paul that Bruce would be paralyzed for life even if he made it through the ordeal. Robin called in the favor of Gordon to get the Decadron. Alfred injected Bruce with the drug, and they waited for him to respond, while praying for his soul. The never-ending nightmare. In a dimly lit cave, Robin, Alfred, and Jean-Paul Valley clustered around Batman, who lay still, battered and barely breathing. Robin, feeling a weight of regret, wished he'd intervened earlier. They'd given him this supposed miracle drug, Decadron, hoping it would bring him back from the edge. But now, all they could do was wait, their hearts heavy with worry for their friend. They thought about the events from 3 weeks before, when they confronted Two-Face. Two-Face, fueled by his twisted sense of justice, sought revenge against Batman for what he saw as betrayal. Armed with his signature coin, he decided Batman's fate. Seeking muscle for his vendetta, Two-Face coerced a small-time crook, Legs Lyman, into joining forces. When Lyman resisted, a flip of the coin sealed his demise. Two-Face, always theatrical, left his mark by sending Lyman's body to the museum, tucked away inside a dinosaur skeleton. Commissioner Gordon stumbled upon this gruesome scene, but it was Batman who unraveled the twisted clues. A mix-up about dinosaur identities led Batman to realize Two-Face's sinister plan. Back at the Batcave, Robin pleaded with Batman to let the police handle Two-Face, but the Caped Crusader, stubborn and determined as ever, ignored his own fragile state. In pursuit of justice, Batman pushed himself too far, confronting danger head-on. A false lead led to a devastating trap, sending the Batmobile crashing into the river. Now, with Batman lying unconscious, his friends could only hope and pray for his recovery, haunted by the consequences of Two-Face's vendetta and Batman's relentless war on crime. The Awakening. Robin reminisced about the event with Two-Face from 3 weeks ago when the Batmobile fell into the river. Two-Face's henchmen fished Batman out of the river. Batman fought back, dragging them into the water, but a swift hit knocked him unconscious. Back at the Batcave, Robin, restricted by Batman from joining the mission, scoured the Batcomputer for Two-Face's whereabouts. With few leads, Robin and Alfred hit the streets in their van, searching for any signs of the villain. Two-Face, at the old Gotham courthouse, staged a twisted trial for Batman, seeking revenge for a broken partnership. As accusations flew, Batman revealed how Harvey's transformation to Two-Face shattered their alliance. Amid the chaos, Two-Face sentenced Batman to death, but he broke free just in time. Robin and Alfred tracked Two-Face's location. With Robin swinging into action as chaos erupted on the courthouse roof, Batman pursued Two-Face, leading to a perilous fight on a construction site. Hanging high above, both struggled for survival. Batman extended a hand of help, but Two-Face's intent was darker. In a tense moment, Robin intervened, nearly causing Two-Face's fall. Batman risked all to save Two-Face and scolded Robin for the impulsive act. Robin's thoughts broke and he found himself still in the cave where Bruce still lay comatose from the fight with Bane, haunting him with guilt for not acting sooner. As guilt consumed Robin, Bruce's eyes opened slowly. He whispered and assured Robin he'd made the right choices. A little glimmer of hope brushed over Robin, Alfred, and Jean-Paul. The king is dead. Bruce awoke from his coma, but he found that he had no feeling in his legs. He immediately knew that his back was broken. Alfred confirmed the same, and Bruce finally gave in to the fact that he may never walk again. His days were over. Gotham belonged to Bane now. Robin couldn't cope with the fact that Bruce had become a paraplegic for life and broke down. Alfred pacified him and assured him that there was still much to be done for Bruce. He called Fox to arrange for medical equipment at the manor. With the help of Tim, Alfred trashed Bruce's car and threw it off a cliff to make Bruce's injuries look like an accident. They also planned to bring in Dr. Chandra Kinsolving to start Bruce's healing process. And all the while, Bruce kept murmuring in a trance of medication. And while the heroes were struggling, The entire city was on the verge of chaos and mayhem. Bane had gone public and taken the top crime families under his command. Using them, he started eliminating his competition all over Gotham by gunning them down or blasting them to oblivion. Dr. Kinsolving joined in as Bruce's private doctor, and although suspicious of Alfred's story about Bruce's accident, she decided to play along for the time being. Tim talked to Bruce about Gotham being on the verge of destruction and that someone needed to answer the bat signal. The possibility of contacting Nightwing came, but he was his own man protecting his own city. So they both agreed to let Jean-Paul take up the mantle of Bat and respond to the clear and present danger. However, on the condition that Jean-Paul would not engage Bane on his own. Robin entrusted Jean-Paul with the Bat costume, and he promised to give his best to fill up Bruce's shoes. Meanwhile, Catwoman aligned herself with Bane. As Jean-Paul and Tim answered Gordon's call as Batman and Robin, a broken Bruce pondered on whether to disclose his secrets to Chandra or not. Long live the king. Robin and the new Batman were clearing off the streets by fighting off street-level gangs who were working overtime on spreading chaos. Jean-Paul, embodying Batman, shocked Robin with unexpected violence and was about to harm a goon with a sledgehammer. Unnervingly menacing, he cared little for lives, consumed solely by his mission to reclaim the city. He saw himself as a chosen by Bruce for a higher cause, distancing himself from being Robin's apprentice. He even defied orders, aiming to confront the mob bosses at Gotham Dome, bypassing Robin. Meanwhile, a wheelchair-bound Bruce went on to check on Tim's father, Jack Drake, and Dr. Kinsolving. He was startled to find masked gunmen outside. He tried to subdue them, but they overpowered him and kidnapped Jack and Dr. Kinsolving. But Bruce managed to snatch a mask off a goon and was rescued by Alfred. Meanwhile, Bane and his crew had taken over the entire stretch from Crest Point to Somerset. Batman directly jumped inside Gotham Dome amidst Tony Bress's meeting with the other gangs who were going to join Bane. He was unstoppable and cut through the mob like a sword. Just focusing on Bressie, Batman didn't have any regard for other goons who could have shot him from behind. However, Robin helped subdue them. Batman chased Tony Bressie down and came to know that he pledged an allegiance to Bane because Bane had kidnapped Bressie's kids and would send him their eyes if Bressie didn't negotiate with other gangs. Believing that he'd found a lead, Batman decided to take Bressie with him, but Robin stopped him and reminded him of the rule of not engaging with Bane directly. Batman reminded him that he wore the Bat Mantle, so he made the rules. So Robin could stay out of his way if he didn't approve of Batman's methods. Robin was left dumbfounded as the defiant Batman leaped off with Bressie. The handover. Batman beat the truth out of Tony Bressie and scared him into contacting Bane with the message of handing over the Don's Union to Bane in order to lure him out. Meanwhile, Bruce examined the mask and found out that the wearer was vaccinated for malaria secorum. Oracle helped Bruce in deducing that the rare malaria strain had a connection to Santa Prisca, where venom was first developed. While Robin was tired and tensed about Jean-Paul's methods, Bruce and Alfred left the cave to Jean-Paul and flew towards Santa Prisca. At that very moment, Jean-Paul's programming kicked in, and he designed 2 high-tech gauntlets for himself. He used the system to actually build these clawed gauntlets when he found that Harold had left his post. Meanwhile, Selina Kyle hid in Bruce's private jet to accompany him to Santa Prisca. Armed with the new gauntlets, Jean-Paul dressed up as Batman and attacked Bane's henchmen at the Salerno warehouse, came to hand over Bressie's kids. He was a force of nature, cutting through the goons with his new claws and the batarangs he fired from his newly made weapon. He demanded only one person, Bane. Robin stopped him somehow and tried to talk some sense into him, pointing out that he was endangering the lives of Bressie's kids. But for Batman, there was no going back. Bane was his target, and he had to defeat him, and neither Robin nor the police could dare cross his path. Tim rushed to the Batcave to warn Bruce about Jean-Paul, but he was surprised to find everyone gone, and Jean-Paul was working on a costume upgrade alone. He went home to check on his father, only to find a note from Alfred that they were going to bring his father back. Tim was left all alone with Jean-Paul. The looming fear. At Gotham University, a tempting poster waved promises of quick cash in exchange for a psychological experiment. Students buzzed with excitement, lured by virtual reality helmets. Among them was Harold, a young man with a stutter, pushed into the experiment by 2 bullies. Unbeknownst to the eager participants, the mastermind behind this scheme was none other than the Scarecrow, seeking vengeance on Gotham City. Disguised as Professor Rance, he commenced his sinister experiment. Meanwhile, at Wayne Manor, Tim Drake stumbled upon Jean-Paul donning the Batsuit at the balcony. He tried to talk to Jean-Paul about Bruce's rule of not wearing the costume indoors, but a brazen Jean-Paul dismissed Bruce Wayne's rules, declaring his intent to pursue Batman's mission in his own style. While Jean-Paul left, Tim reeled in the fear of losing everything he held dear. As the experiment unfolded, Harold recognized Crane and realized his dark history with the man. The Scarecrow had killed his father. But when Crane sprayed knockout gas, plunging everyone into terrifying virtual nightmares, Harold relived the horror of his father's murder at the Scarecrow's hands. Within the experiment, Crane manipulated the students, commanding them to perform his bidding under hypnotic control. He molded them into scarecrow-like figures, intending to unleash fear gas across the university at 10 o'clock, solidifying his reign of terror. As Scarecrow plotted to ascend as the god of fear, Lonnie Makin, aka Anarchy, sought justice by challenging Gotham's elite. Watching Batman confront criminals, Anarchy concluded that Gotham's chaos was the Dark Knight's making, and he vowed to dismantle Batman's reign. The War of Terror. In the dead of night, Scarecrow orchestrated his troops' movement, planning a strike at precisely 11 o'clock, but his attention snagged on Harold, who accused him of his father's murder. Shocked, Scarecrow realized Paul was his first victim and the target of his initial heist for antiquarian books. Seeing an opportunity, he dragged the boy along to steal those very books. Elsewhere in Gotham, Batman dispensed his vigilante justice, warning thugs with brutal force, even threatening to run them over with the Batmobile. On a police scanner, he heard of the situation that was looming over Gotham because of Scarecrow. At Gotham University, GCPD detectives Harvey Bullock and Renee Montoya probed the Scarecrow's involvement, discovering a tape addressed to Batman. Unaware of Batman's presence, they unwittingly triggered an explosive tape, narrowly escaping its blast. Batman intervened at the correct moment and asked them about the missing students from the university. In a grim alley, Anarchy intercepted a gang terrorizing citizens in the name of the Batman. He realized that the gang's methods were completely in opposition to the people's interest. So he subdued the gang, becoming all the more resolute to end Batman's war on crime. Meanwhile, Scarecrow narrated his descent into villainy, a tale of childhood fascination with fear merging with his love for books and an academic pursuit that led to his dark persona. His grudge against Paul Harold resulted in murder, a chilling revelation amidst his elaborate plan to spread fear gas across the city. Amidst chaos, Anarchy confronted Scarecrow, only to unmask one of the hypnotized students, realizing he'd been deceived. As Batman battled the fear-induced crisis, a colossal hologram of Scarecrow emerged, urging citizens to embrace fear by midnight. Both Batman and Anarchy faced a city plunged into terror, torn between combating the spreading fear and confronting Scarecrow's menacing hologram, while the mastermind screamed his evil laugh from somewhere in the heart of Gotham. Fear, anarchy, and violence. In a whirlwind of events, a member of Scarecrow's gang stormed into a GCPD office, claiming to be the notorious villain himself, but the imposter unleashed fear gas, plunging officers into their deepest fears. Amid the chaos, the fake Scarecrow was shot and killed. Meanwhile, Batman hunted for the gear, projecting Scarecrow's colossal hologram across Gotham. Wrestling with the urge to settle scores with Bane, Batman prioritized protecting the city from Scarecrow's threat. As tensions rose, Scarecrow fumed over public rejection, venting to Harold under his mind control. Despite Harold's nightmarish situation, he seethed inside, ensnared by Scarecrow's fear tactics. Batman caught wind of Gotham University students kidnapped by Scarecrow, connecting the dots to Harold's family and his dad's book stash. Simultaneously, Anarchy plotted to take down Scarecrow, pinning blame on Batman for the city's costumed villains. At GCPD, Commissioner Gordon grappled with chaos and a shrinking police force. Scarecrow called, demanding worship or threatening citywide fear gas. Batman overheard, wondering how the gas would be dispersed without an enclosed space. While Scarecrow spilled his diabolical water supply scheme to fill, Batman swooped in a fierce showdown. Scarecrow, wielding wild Scarecrow moves, clashed with Batman. Suddenly, Anarchy trapped both Batman and Scarecrow. Anarchy tasered both of them, but a mind-controlled Herald helped Scarecrow escape while he sprayed Batman and Anarchy with fear gas. Batman and Anarchy faced their fears. Anarchy feared elite dominance, while Batman questioned his identity. But Batman was able to turn back his sanity due to his programming. Scarecrow's attempt to control Batman via Herald backfired. After Scarecrow's defeat, Batman rescued Anarchy and Herald, sparking a moral clash with Anarchy. Batman defended his choice for the greater good. He warned Anarchy against crossing his road ever again, or else he would crush his head like an egg. The Pretender versus the Usurper. Jean-Paul scourged through the concrete jungle of Gotham with only Bane in his mind. He talked to Gordon and learned where Bane's comrades had been held by the police. Batman stealthily infiltrated the location. Once the interrogation was over and Zombie, Trog, and Bird were back in their cells, they found gas masks and a note signed, Just B. Suddenly, the entire holding cell filled up with gas, and the cell doors opened. The three of them escaped the prison and headed straight to Bane's location as Batman observed from a distance. When Trog, Zombie, and Bird went to Bane, they were baffled by the fact that Bane had no hand in staging their escape. Surprised, they said that they got a note signed B, and then all of them realized it wasn't Bane, but the other B, Batman. At that very moment, Batman detonated a charge and blew the window open and burst in. He incapacitated Bane's comrades like they were lifeless puppets. And then he faced Bane, his one and only obsession. Bane hit Batman and called him a pretender, but Jean-Paul had turned into a different beast. He proclaimed that he was the one and only Batman and was born for the role. He was primed for Bane, faster and stronger than him, but Bane had to rule this world that he visualized as his prison. He fought back and disoriented Batman. Both of them jumped into a fire escape, and Batman's life hung by a rope, the other end of which was in Bane's hand, and he started cutting it off with a batarang. The battle for Gotham. Bane started cutting the rope by which Batman was dangling, but before he could finish, Batman jumped. He broke his falls by bumping himself to the adjacent wall and then splashing into a water fountain, but he hurt himself badly. Bane fled the scene, while Batman retreated to the Batcave working on the new design of his costume and training himself. Sacrificing his personal life with his girlfriend Ariana, Tim went to the Batcave to meet Jean-Paul. He told Jean-Paul that he was dismantling everything that Batman stood for. Jean-Paul refuted him and asserted that it was a new age and a time for a new Batman. His Batman. Tim left in disappointment, and at GCPD, Gordon sat in fear how Batman had changed somehow. And within the walls of the Batcave, Jean-Paul submerged into the system and started building a fearful armor for himself. Meanwhile, a wounded Bane went to meet his comrades in custody and asked for more venom from Zombie. He went to Tony Bress's warehouse and amped himself up with venom. He went to a digital messaging billboard and left a message for Batman. It read, "Batman, now." Robin went to meet Jean-Paul, only to find that the Batcave was empty. As he browsed through Jean-Paul's armor design, he was left baffled and speechless, and more than that, in an utter wave of fear. All hail the new king. An upgraded Batman tore through the stormy skies of Gotham, his armor, that of an avenging angel, his face, that of a bat with crimson eyes, his hand, the claws of a warrior dragon, his mind deeply rooted in the system of Saint Dumas, and on his chest, a new bat symbol. He rode the wind of the night and reached the spot where Bane lured him. The police waited below. They didn't want to interfere in the blood sport that was about to go down. Batman attacked without giving Bane any time. Bane was already exhausted and bleeding, and Batman took that to his advantage. He shot his bat shurikens and cut Bane more as he started to bleed from his arms and neck. He then landed a plethora of punches and kicks on him. Bane injected more venom into himself and attacked back, but Batman baffled him with the bat signal fitted in his chest. He cut Bane's venom pipes and powered him down. He made him bleed more by shooting the shurikens at him. Bane had no choice but to retreat. He ran, but Batman pounced after him like a predator. Both of them landed up inside a monorail, and another round of brawl ensued. Both of them kept fighting without any regard for the other innocent lives that were on that train. Robin appeared like a saving grace and cut loose the rest of the compartments. The fight continued as the police followed the train car from below, and in the end, the train compartment broke through the track and crashed into the top of a building and fell down to the ground. Batman stood over a completely beaten Bane who begged him to kill him. Robin and the police prayed in silence so that Batman could overcome his rage. Ultimately, Batman left the broken Bane to be collected by the police. Robin stopped Batman as he was going to leave and assured him that he had indeed earned the mantle of the Bat. But Batman needed no approval. He breezily thanked him and jumped past him into the stormy night. Chapter 6. KnightQuest, the cold, dark night, coming out of the shell. After ending Bane's reign of terror, Jean-Paul found Gotham too quiet. There were no big challenges, just the usual bad guys. He saved a family from thugs, but they seemed scared of him too. Being Batman was becoming too easy for him. Meanwhile, in New Jersey, Tom Trigger's bank heist got a surprise visitor, a guy who looked exactly like him. Instead of fighting, they teamed up and finished the job together. Later, they realized they were twins and both wanted to make it big in Gotham, so they became a team, the Trigger Twins. But Jean-Paul kept getting nightmares of Saint Dumas, who said Gotham needed more than Batman. It needed a demon. Jean-Paul tweaked his new Batsuit into a more upgraded version. Surprisingly, he discovered that Harold was secretly building a special Batmobile for the old subway lines. Elsewhere, the Trigger Twins busted into mob boss Danny Doyle's place, hoping for a heist. But Doyle offered them a job instead of a bullet. At Drake Manor, Tim Drake, itching to be Robin again, found the secret way to the Batcave blocked. Jean-Paul's message was clear for him. No Robins allowed. Batman decided to test the new Batmobile and take it out for a spin on the subway tracks. But instead, he drove toward an imminent head-on collision with an underground D train. Robin versus Batman. Just as Batman was about to collide with the D-Express, he pressed a red button that completely reversed the chassis of the Batmobile and fired a jet engine backwards to get away from the train. Batman was saved for the day. Elsewhere, mob boss Dan Doyle compensated the Trigger Twins for killing his rival and gave them a new heist plan. The Gotham City subway system accrued almost $3 million every day as fare and transferred them to the Dray station on 4 late-night money trains. The twins had to hit the train off the Grand Street line in a corner of Los Angeles. A film producer received a call from the Joker, who proposed an autobiographical movie concept centered around a cunning criminal genius. Robin went into the Batcave and was surprised to find it in shambles. He understood that Jean-Paul had no respect for Bruce's mementos or his life. He decided to take the Redbird vehicle out for himself when Batman appeared. He reminded Robin that he wasn't allowed there, and saving Gotham was his crusade only. Without any warning, Batman attacked. However, thanks to the years of training, Robin held his ground, but Jean-Paul as Batman was nothing less than a beast. He subdued Robin and lifted him up by his neck, slowly suffocating him, while he screamed that the criminals will fear him like they never feared Bruce. Unable to breathe, Robin stabbed Batman's hand with his sharp R symbol and freed himself. Batman came back to his senses. It was his system that had kicked in. He tried to make Robin understand that he would be better off alone, but Robin was angry. He ran to the Red Bird and drove hastily out of the cave while Batman screamed behind him. Search for the healer. Meanwhile, in the heart of Santa Prisca, Bruce Wayne, now utilizing his state-of-the-art wheelchair crafted by Harold and Alfred, touched down in Bruce's private jet, seeking Chandra Kinsolving and Jack Drake. Unaware of their every move being observed by a local terrorist faction, they disembarked. The moment they stepped off the plane, the group accosted them. Despite Bruce neutralizing one with gas, the others aimed for a lethal outcome. Out of the blue, Bronze Tiger intervened, swiftly dealing with the terrorists, though Bruce permitted their escape. Escorted to a nearby hotel by Bronze Tiger, Bruce and Alfred met with Gypsy. Bruce briefed them on the mission and disclosed the terrorists' hideout, tracked through a concealed homing device. Suddenly, another terrorist surfaced on the hotel balcony, poised to strike, until a shot from Green Arrow on a distant rooftop wounded the assailant. While Bronze Tiger and Gypsy investigated the terrorist's location, Bruce contacted Robin back in Gotham. He revealed that someone at the Gotham airport had tipped off the terrorists, promising Robin that he would locate his father. Gypsy infiltrated the terrorists' hacienda, discovering they anticipated the arrival of a certain Mr. Asp. Inside, Chandra was barred from aiding the ailing Jack Drake, even though he was in pain. Upon learning of the hotel terrorists' failure, the remaining terrorists armed themselves with rocket launchers, devastatingly obliterating the hotel where Bruce and Alfred were staying. The search fails. At Santa Prisca, Bronze Tiger and Gypsy arrived at the hotel too late, finding it in ruins, demolished by the local terrorists. The terrorists faced a swift takedown by the duo. Unbeknownst to them, Bruce and Alfred had anticipated the assault, seeking refuge in the woods. Despite this, Bronze Tiger and Gypsy resolved to press on with their mission to locate Chandra Kinsolving and Jack Drake. At the terrorist compound, Chandra pleaded once more to tend to the wounded Jack, yet her pleas were denied. A revelation surfaced. Mr. Asp, the orchestrator of the kidnappings, was coming to their location. Guard dogs were stationed around the hideout. While Gypsy infiltrated the location, Bronze Tiger found himself under attack by the vicious dogs. Fending one off, he faced another nearly tearing into him until Green Arrow intervened just in time. Gypsy initiated a blaze inside to signal their allies. As Mr. Asp's helicopter approached the island, chaos erupted. Amidst the team's effort to thwart the terrorists inside the building, others loaded Chandra and Jack onto the helicopter. Bronze Tiger, intending to rescue Chandra, was pulled away to aid Gypsy against a dog. Chandra boarded the helicopter behind Jack and told Bronze Tiger that attending to Jack's well-being was her main priority. On Bruce Wayne's personal yacht, despite feeling they'd faltered, Bruce remained resolute. He understood they hadn't lost the war, merely a battle, fueling his determination to find Chandra and Jack. Debts of the Tallyman. Meanwhile, in Gotham, our new Batman, Jean-Paul, was on a roller coaster ride watching over the night. He not only scared and intimidated the thugs and goons spreading crime, he also beat them brutally in an out-of-control frenzy. He blamed the system for his rage and decided to get inside an isolation tank in order to meditate and calm himself. At the same time, an enigmatic villain called Tallyman sabotaged crime boss Big Mike's birthday party and killed him, promising to kill his brother Johnny next. He got the location of Johnny from his wife and went straight to the Gotham New Age warehouse. At the New Age warehouse, inside the isolation tank, Jean-Paul dreamt. He got flashes of the time when he was subjected to the system as a baby and trained to be the next Azrael. He was reminded of the rule of his crusade. Azrael does not protect. Azrael is for revenge. He realized that he was a killer and was filling up for a legend. Just as he was about to get to the truth inside his dream, Johnny Mahoon and his henchmen shot at the tank. However, Jean-Paul ambushed them and locked them in the tank. Tallyman arrived and killed Johnny and his henchmen, but not before knowing that Batman had locked them up in the tank. The Tallyman assigned himself the new task to collect his debt from Batman and kill him. Batman pondered on a rooftop about the depth of his programming by the system, subtly thanking his father for building him into a formidable warrior. While he thought of using the ISO tank again, Tallyman attacked from behind. The brutality escalates. Batman was shot by the Tallyman and he fell from the building, but the ISO tank had unlocked an entirely new side of the programming in him. His mind could take a back seat while his body used it to the fullest capacity and did whatever was necessary to emerge victorious. As the new program kicked in, his body blocked all the pain and clawed himself up the building. Tallyman was reminiscing about his childhood trauma when Batman attacked him. However, Tallyman was a brutal killer, driven only by vengeance against the people who did his family wrong. He shot Batman through his shoulder and pushed him off the ledge. He kept shooting Batman and cornering him until Batman stuck him with a wooden stick. Batman kept hitting Tallyman, and suddenly his mind was once again taken over by the new program. In their trance of pain, Batman dreamt Saint Dumas ordering him to stand up and fight, while Tallyman dreamt of his prison time for a murder and his mother committing suicide. When the trance broke, Tallyman advanced, but Batman pulled an entire water tank on him. Batman warned him to stand down, but Tallyman kept coming. Batman stopped him in his tracks and started punching and clawing him. Blood spattered all over. He tried to fight the program, but couldn't. Ultimately, Batman broke free of the murderous trance, but damage had been done. Later, Bullock and Kitch found the Tallyman, barely alive, with a bat symbol carved in his chest with Batman's claws. They cringed in disgust as Batman fled the scene, wondering if he was a man, a robot, or a monster. The search for the friend. On the other side of the world, Bruce Wayne's relentless pursuit of Chandra and Jack Drake led him across the seas to London. There, he sought the help of a local hero, the Hood, appearing in his Batman identity to strike a deal. In exchange for crucial details about a drug shipment heading to Tilbury docks from Gotham and a suspect list, Batman tasked Hood with sneaking into the Secret Service's offices to snag a specific file linked to Chandra's past involving Benedict Asp. While Hood undertook the risky mission, Bruce's thoughts wandered through the few women who had left an imprint on his life, Chandra being the latest. Determined to rescue her, he swore an inner oath. Meanwhile, Chandra found herself imprisoned within Monkley Hall under Asp's control. Coerced into using her healing abilities, she mended wounds at Asp's bidding, unaware of the sinister twist. Asp amplified her powers, intending harm, monitored by Colonel Vega, who manipulated her telekinetic waves to inflict death instead of healing. Upon Hood's successful retrieval of the file, Bruce discovered Asp's current residence. With cunning strategy, Bruce discerned that a hunt ball at Monkley Hall could be his ticket to locating Chandra. The search for the foe. En route to Monkley Hall, Bruce hinged all hope on Benedict Asp's link to Chandra consolving. With Alfred steering the way, Bruce clocked himself as Sir Hemingford Grey, an English noble aiming to skirt any attention. Along the journey, they stumbled upon a fox hunt disrupted by hunt saboteurs, prompting Bruce to intervene and halt the escalating clash. In a revealing moment, Bruce uncovered one of the saboteurs as George Cross, whose suspicious glance at Alfred hinted at recognition. Bruce sensed a familiarity in Cross's movements, deciphering him as Hood, the vigilante helper from Britain. Praying that Hood hadn't identified Alfred or delved into Asp's file, they continued towards Monkley Hall. Meanwhile, Chandra, confined within Monkley, repeated her healing acts under Asp's coercion until granted a reprieve and confined with Jack Drake. Bruce, arriving at the hall, presented himself to Asp as Sir Hemingford Grey, cunningly planting a bug in Asp's abode while securing an invitation to the evening's ball. Armed with the bug, Bruce retreated to eavesdrop on Asp's machinations from a distance. Simultaneously, within Monkley's secret dungeons, Colonel Vega devised a helmet amplifying Asp's telekinetic powers, enabling fatal reversals of healing. Meanwhile, Alfred contacted Tim Drake in Gotham, learning of the city's new Batman and its current affairs. Soon, agents from the Secret Service arrived, revealing the theft of Asp's file and demanding a demonstration of his experiments. Bruce monitored closely while Hood, having perused the stolen file, observed from afar, tipping his hand. As the ball commenced, Bruce scoured for a hidden entrance, unaware of Asp conducting the lethal demonstration with Chandra, culminating in a devastating act targeting a nearby village. Spotting his beloved amidst the chaos, Bruce approached, only to be rebuffed. Chandra's denial driven either by their disguised encounter or to protect Jack Drake's life. Her plea for solitude left Bruce with a heavy heart. The search for the betrayer. At Monkley Hall, Bruce grappled with disbelief as Chandra denied recognizing him, even beneath his Sir Hemingford Grey guise. Her allegiance to Benedict Asp pierced his heart. As Asp's guards forcibly expelled Bruce from Monkley Hall, thugs from that morning's encounter, seeking retribution, closed in on him. Utilizing modified canes designed by Harold, Bruce subdued them, but uncertainty loomed over his next move. In Monkley's village, Colonel Vega and Yuri scoured the deceased, seeking a suitable body. Spotting Hood's approach, they ambushed him. Bruce intervened, neutralizing Vega and Yuri with tranquilizer darts, before rushing back to Monkley Hall after coming to Hood's aid. As Asp sensed surveillance on Chandra, he readied to depart, leaving Jack Drake to perish. He incapacitated Chandra and dragged her through a secret exit. Arriving at the hall, Bruce faced off against Secret Service agents, but his attempts were futile as Asp and Chandra fled by helicopter. Bruce saved an almost dying Jack Drake and arranged an ambulance for him. He learned from the Hood that everyone in the Monkley village was dead. Fearing for Alfred's safety, Bruce scoured the village, discovering a grim scene of devastation. In a surprising turn, Alfred emerged unscathed, having taken a stroll outside the village. Shielding Bruce from Gotham's turmoil, Alfred chose not to divulge the Jean-Paul challenges to him. Hood, acknowledging the honor of working alongside Batman, assured Alfred of secrecy regarding the Caped Crusader's identity. Bruce reflected on his quest to find Chandra and realized that he was indeed in love with Chandra. No one had touched him as deeply as Chandra did, but he also thought that Chandra had betrayed her, as she was a willing accomplice to the mass killing of Monkley Village. Heartbroken, Bruce swore to hunt Chandra down and bring her to justice. The attack of Mekros. Meanwhile in Gotham, Jean-Paul's blood-soaked Crusaders Batman continued. The new program kept showing him the apparition of Saint Dumas, who directed him to leave the ways of the assassin and become a protector and defender of life. In the quest of proving himself worthy to the mantle of Bat, Jean-Paul coursed through the murky skies of Gotham to deal with the crime vacuum that was birthed by Bane's defeat. As Batman, he saved crime boss Mercante from a hit arranged by his competitor Santos Verona. He threatened and coerced Mercante to be his insider and tip him about the other crime families. But Mercante double-crossed Batman and arranged a meeting with bosses Rosselli and Marcello. His proposal was bold. Their priority should be to eliminate the Dark Knight. Skepticism loomed among the group until Mercante unveiled his ace, a hired super soldier, Mekros. This assassin was once backed by the government and possessed a lethal, almost robotic precision through self-hypnosis. To prove his efficiency, Mekros swiftly dispatched Verona for free as a gesture of allegiance. Both Gordon and Robin talked to Batman about their concerns on his new method, full of rage. But any concerns were brushed aside by Batman, as the only thing that mattered to him was taking back Gotham. He went to Mercante and interrogated him about the hit on Verona, but Mercante had Batman strategically placed in front of an open window so that Mekros could shoot him in the back. When Batman was in the correct position, Mekros shot, but Batman ducked at the right moment and the bullet went through Mercante. With no regard to Mercante's life, Batman looked at the bullet path and saw Mekros on a nearby roof. There was a new challenge for the predator known as Batman, and he was happy. The unlikely methods. Batman was almost content that Mekros had taken out Mercante. He fooled Mekros into thinking that he was shot and ambushed him from behind. While he was fighting Mekros, suddenly a plan struck him. Since Mekros was priorly brainwashed, Batman thought that his suggestions may work in driving Mekros against the mob bosses. Batman shouted at Mekros with conviction that Mercante and the other bosses were never going to pay him. Once Mekros had killed Batman, the bosses would kill him too. Hearing this, Mekros fled the scene, but the seed of mistrust had already been planted. The FBI was already informed about Mekros being reactivated again, and they sent their man Skylar to kill him. Meanwhile, Batman intercepted the location of Morelli and Costello and recorded their conversation regarding the hiring of Mekros. And Batman was right. Mekros had indeed arrived to kill Morelli and Costello based on Batman's suggestion. He killed nearly everyone in the place before Batman intervened. Mekros fled the scene while Batman apprehended the remaining criminals. Later, Batman handed over the audio evidence to Gordon, but Gordon wasn't happy. He thought it to be criminal to let a gang of mob bosses be killed by a hired mercenary, while Batman stood and watched. He informed Batman about Skylar, the man who was sent to kill Mekros. On the other hand, Mayor Kroll proclaimed to endorse the methods of Batman publicly and distanced himself from the GCPD. Batman later followed Skylar and intervened when he ambushed Mekros. However, during the altercation, Mekros killed Skylar and fled to a nearby grocery store. There, Mekros went on a spree, shooting and killing anyone in sight. Batman finally cornered him inside a meat freezer. He beat Mekros brutally until he was out cold, and then hung his body from a meat hook. The money train heist. The night fell heavily over Gotham City as the Trigger twins plotted to seize the riches of the money train. The locomotive held the city's fortunes, a haul that could make their wildest dreams reality. Unfolding their plan with ruthless precision, they stormed the subway station, but their greed bore a heavy toll. They had to shoot the station's keeper, an innocent casualty, in their pursuit of wealth. Amidst the chaos, Batman heard about the heist on the police radio. Equipped with his new subway rocket Batmobile, he surged into the fray, trailing the money train. He utilized his encyclopedic knowledge of Gotham's transit network, navigating through the city's arteries, inching closer to the twins with each passing moment. As the trigger-happy duo realized Batman's pursuit, they unleashed a storm of bullets. But bullets were futile against the impenetrable fortress of the Batmobile. Undeterred, Batman orchestrated a daring maneuver, aligning his vehicle with the speeding train and leaping across the tracks. Atop the train, Batman incapacitated the twins with his bare hands. With the train halted and the threat subdued, the authorities closed in on Danny Doyle, the twins' employer. Meanwhile, in the shadows, the Joker spun a sinister offer to producer Calvin Berkowitz, the macabre prospect of directing The Death of Batman, the motion picture. Jean-Paul's crusade was at its peak. He was a time bomb waiting to explode. Bruce's search was growing frustratingly futile. He had lost love and was losing hope too. The end seemed far, but it was coming. Chapter 7, KnightQuest, High-Octane Terror, The Increasing Suspicions. Renee Montoya and Harvey Bullock, steering clear of cold case files, embarked on an unusual excursion to the river, summoned by the grim discovery of a body entombed within a block of ice. The victim's frozen state puzzled even the seasoned coroner, Colleen, who unveiled the chilling truth: the body had been deliberately frozen from within. As Bullock rushed to follow a lead on Blackgate escapees, Montoya lingered at the coroner's office, intent on identifying the icy enigma. Meanwhile, Batman prowled the streets, dismantling a drug bust gone awry in the vicinity of the coroner's domain. While Montoya was lost in her thoughts, the icy body thawed and escaped from the morgue room. It was none other than Mr. Freeze, and Montoya and Dr. Colleen was locked in the Gotham morgue with him. While Montoya and Colleen tried to apprehend Freeze, he tampered with the electricity. When Montoya fired shots, Batman heard it and rushed there. Montoya and Batman followed Freeze's wet trail to the morgue freezer, where Freeze attacked them. He opened liquid oxygen cylinders, which started freezing everything in the vicinity. While Montoya was incapacitated, Batman fought Freeze and subdued him by fracturing his skull. Batman's program demanded him to eliminate Freeze, and he would have done it if he wasn't stopped by Montoya at the right moment. Montoya tied Freeze up and asked for Batman's help to restore the lights until the medics arrived. However, she was surprised to see Batman gone. This encounter made Montoya suspect the wearer of the Bat Mantle, as Batman would have never acted that way. The Crimes of the Cat. At Gotham, the group named Friends of the Earth Nature Magic Alliance contacted Catwoman, sharing grim footage of animals harmed by a deadly toxin, Zyklon C. They equipped her with a special collar that amps up a cat's voice to incredible levels. Meanwhile, in Gotham, a looming trade summit discussing rainforest development prompted this group to plot a devious use of the toxin, skirting laws protecting endangered areas. Despite their attempts to expose the truth through the media, bribery hushed their cause. Shockingly, the creator of the toxin was one of their own, named Professor Job Underhill. Amidst Gotham's streets, kidnappers targeted Underhill, but Batman thwarted their plan. Meanwhile, Catwoman, tending to her feline friends, became Selina and returned to the Friends' hideout, sneaking in with Julio wearing the high-volume collar. Inside the Friends' base, Underhill recovered while Selina observed Batman's altered appearance. Underhill feared being kidnapped for the toxin's access and revealed its complexity, detailed in Valentine's notes, requiring a co-agent Atrophane. Ridden with guilt, he regretted his involvement. Marv and Doogie, members of the group, seized Valentine's notes and Underhill's van, planning to unleash the gas at the trade summit. Determined to intervene, Selina vowed to protect the Zyklon C. Catwoman infiltrated the toxin's warehouse with Julio, locating the Zyklon C and a misleading barrel of benzotrilene. Catwoman hid the Zyklon C, but she didn't know that Batman was observing her from a nearby rooftop. The curiosities of the Bat. Batman was captivated by Catwoman's presence at the Gotham waterfront. He returned to the Batcave with her grace lingering in his mind. The following night, atop GCPD headquarters, Commissioner Gordon alerted Batman about heightened fears of terrorism at the imminent trade conference. Mentioning the stolen Zyklon C from the same location Catwoman had been seen, Gordon doubted her intentions, but Batman refused to entertain doubts. Mayor Kroll summoned Gordon, directing him to let Batman handle the matter. Meanwhile, Catwoman targeted a warehouse for benzotrilene, the closest substance resembling Zyklon C, a potential ingredient for terrorism. Batman tracked her, confronting her in a tense showdown over dangerous vats of chemicals. Batman suspected her involvement in a blackmail scheme, but Catwoman sensed a stark difference in this Batman's demeanor, knowing he wasn't the one she'd crossed paths with before. Outmaneuvering Batman, Catwoman slipped away, leaving him reeling with a mix of admiration and regret for underestimating her. Driven by his admiration for Catwoman, Batman acknowledged his distraction had allowed her escape, but he remained in pursuit, determined not to let his oar come in the path of his duty again. The dance of Cat and Bat. While there was a dire neurotoxin threat looming over Gotham, Jean-Paul started getting more confused about his role as Batman. He saw the apparition of St. Dumas again and demanded to know whether he should become darker or follow the light, whether he was an angel or a demon. The new programming had already started messing up his mind. When the vision stopped, he persisted in his pursuit of Catwoman, tracing her steps back to the warehouse where the Zyklon C had been stolen. Batman's chase led him to a boathouse where the deadly neurotoxin was concealed aboard a vessel. Suddenly, Catwoman seized control, propelling the boat down the river, initiating a desperate struggle between them. In the chaos, the boat careened out of control, prompting both to leap free before it crashed. Catwoman escaped with benzotrilene, a mere decoy, while Batman persisted in his pursuit. Gordon received word of the boat crash, Arriving at the scene, uncertain of Catwoman's involvement in terrorism, Batman trailed her to the Tuscany building, their clash inadvertently causing a gargoyle to tumble onto Montoya's patrol car. With Gordon summoning more officers, the confrontation reached a standstill between Batman and Catwoman. As the police closed in, Batman pointed out the benzotrilene, attempting to incriminate Catwoman for her alleged terrorist acts. He departed, leaving Catwoman incensed and abandoned to confront the authorities alone, raging against the accusation. The last stand of the cat. Catwoman found herself cornered by Gordon and his officers, blamed by Batman for the theft of neurotoxins to fund terrorism. Fuming, she activated her cat's collar, unleashing a wild booming sound that distracted everyone, allowing her to slip away. Before vanishing, she entrusted Gordon with the location of the Zyklon Sea, urging its safekeeping. Meanwhile, Marv and Doogie, thwarted by the police's possession of the Zyklon Sea, kidnapped Underhill, intending to force him to concoct the lethal mixture for the trade conference. As Underhill and Valentine arrived at the conference, Marv and Doogie swooped in, snatching the professor. Catwoman, summoning Batman with the bat signal, sought his alliance against the terrorists. Batman, now at her side, learned of her true intentions and agreed to help. At a vocational school, Underhill complied with the terrorists' demands, concocting the chemicals. Doogie raced to the conference with the mix, while Marv plotted to kill Underhill. Batman and Catwoman stormed in, thwarting Marv's plan and apprehending him. Underhill revealed he'd only prepared tear gas for Doogie. Police descended on the conference, capturing Doogie. In the end, Catwoman flaunted her success from a helicopter over a mic, entertaining Gordon and taunting and infuriating Batman with her boldness. The movie of the decade. Joker had kidnapped producer Calvin Berkowitz and financier Barry Zedmore and convinced them to produce his movie, The Death of Batman. Seeing an opportunity at the box office, Barry decided to help him. Joker immediately got his goons to dress up as late-night movie monsters and attack a college student named Cindy Brooks. Batman heard her screams and intervened. He beat up the goons, but they fled the scene when Batman was tending to Cindy. Batman felt his program lose its hold when he held the unconscious Cindy in his arms. He escorted her to her apartment and left. Meanwhile, this whole sequence was filmed by the Joker. He and his team were concerned about Batman's new appearance and the absence of Robin. He decided to film another sequence to make the movie viewers care more for Batman before he killed him. Meanwhile, in the Batcave, Jean-Paul saw a vision of Saint Dumas who designated him as an avenging demon destined to take back the city of Gotham. He lured Batman to another setup where his goons staged a random attack. Chasing them, Batman found the reels from the night before when he saved Cindy. He saw it was all staged by the Joker. Fearing the goons might target her, he rushed to Cindy's apartment, only to find that the goons had dressed Cindy up as Robin and threw her out of the apartment window. Release the Joker cut. Batman swooped in as an unconscious Cindy fell down from her apartment's window. He caught hold of her mid-air and brought her safely to the ground. He arranged for Cindy's hospitalization and left. Joker watched the whole event unfold and was infuriated as the new Batman didn't follow his script. He wanted a budget increase as he had a citywide disaster in mind and plans to film it. Jean-Paul went to the cave and started looking up Joker's files in the Bat computer. He deduced that Robin had the computer hacked and had been accessing the computer remotely. On the other hand, Joker had printed the poster of his movie, The Death of Batman, in the Gotham Gazette to be unveiled at the Majestic Theatre, and hired goons and gave those weapons and ammo to facilitate the killing of Batman. Jean-Paul went to visit Cindy, but found out that the Joker had already kidnapped her from the hospital. While the police went to the Majestic Theatre, Jean-Paul dressed up as Batman and went to the Arcadia Theatre in search of Joker. The police faced firepower, only to find out that it was unmanned. Batman, at the Arcadia, went through a series of silly booby traps, but little did he know that he'd been drugged in the course. Batman fell unconscious, only to regain his senses and find himself chained to a wall. He saw Cindy hung upside down in a glass case while it filled up with water. Joker and his armed goons surrounded them while filming them simultaneously. Batman tried to reach out for Cindy while she hung in there for her life. Batman vs. Joker. The final scene of Joker's movie, The Death of Batman, was getting shot and Batman was going nowhere. The villains shot at Batman, only to find that they were shooting blanks. It was all a plan of Joker, as he wanted to finish off Batman himself. Frustrated, the Joker's goons attacked Batman bare-handed. However, Batman's program had already kicked in. He freed himself with sheer power and started bloodying up Joker's goons. While the fight was going on, Joker discovered something. Witnessing Batman's carelessness for human life, his sheer brutality, his lack of grace, Joker understood that it wasn't the Batman he'd encountered till date. Disheartened, he decided to scrap the movie. On the other hand, Batman rescued Cindy, only to find out that she was an actor, paid to act as the damsel in distress. Batman faltered. His program answered. The apparition of Saint Dumas appeared before him and told him to expunge the fine line between good and evil. Now, the only thing that mattered was the crusade, and Batman should go to any extent possible to see it realized. Batman blocked all pain, all emotions, and started off like a raging robot. He caught hold of the Joker and brutally broke both his hands. He was about to eliminate him when Detective Kitch intervened. He stopped Batman and took everyone in custody. Montoya expressed her concerns to Bullock about Batman's fickling rage, and while they were taking Joker to the hospital, he escaped. The children of the night. While prowling the docks of Gotham, Batman heard a scream. Some goons were looting money off an illegal immigrant lady. Batman returned the money to her and took down the thugs. However, he learned that the lady, Rosemary, had come to Gotham to buy her son back. She'd sold her son for $50 to buy their way out of hunger. But when her husband died, she worked to gather the money to come to Gotham and take his son back as an atonement. Initially reluctant, Batman was reminded by Rosemary about his mother. Jean-Paul had a sad primal feeling ignited in him, so he decided to help out as Batman. He brought Gordon into the fold regarding the child trafficking and asked for his help. In return, he helped Gordon to deduce a case where the convicted had cheated the lie detector thrice. Batman infiltrated a fertility lab, scouring through records and files with no luck. Resourceful as ever, he planted a listening device on a phone to eavesdrop for any suspicious activity. Soon, conversation caught his attention. A man offering child adoption without any official process. He traced the lead, confronting the man to extract information about the trafficked children. Following the man's instructions, Batman rushed to a designated location, where he confronted a van attempting to flee upon his arrival. The driver and passenger leaped off, abandoning the van careening towards danger, packed with children. With lightning reflexes, Batman halted the runaway van just in time, averting catastrophe and rescuing the innocent children inside. With Batman's leads, Gordon found out Rosemary's baby was adopted by the Lowthers. He was returned to his mother. On a lonely roof, Batman pondered about his mother, whom he never knew. Wondering if he'll ever meet her, he jumped into the night, deciding to protect the city at war instead. The Abattoir of Death. While investigating a crime scene as Batman, where an entire family was murdered, Jean-Paul suddenly started getting visions of Saint Dumas and his father, the former Azrael. While Dumas wanted Paul to choose the path of light, his father wanted him to be a demon and avenge him. In his visions, Dumas killed his father with a fiery sword. Seeing that, Batman started screaming. He was already losing his mind. In a grim courtyard, the killer Abattoir gruesomely shattered the bones of his ancestors, feeding on the macabre fragments. Jean-Paul delved into computer files, uncovering the slaughtered family's link to Abattoir, notorious for devouring his forebears' souls and targeting living relatives. His next prey had been Graham Etchison, the cousin's son. Batman sped in the Batmobile to locate Etchison before Abattoir could strike. Meanwhile, Graham had been honored at the Wayne Foundation Hall, expressing gratitude for donations that funded a camping trip for orphan kids under his supervision. The following evening, Graham and the children headed to their camping bus. Abattoir ambushed and disguised himself as the driver, intending a sinister end for Graham and the kids. Batman, driving alongside, leaped onto the bus, wrestling with Abattoir. As the struggle ensued, Abattoir punctured Batman's cape with a blade. In the chaos, the bus teetered on a cliff's edge. Batman sacrificed pursuit of Abattoir to save the kids and Graham, kicking the killer onto a passing train. Batman ensured the bus's occupants were safe, promising to call the police. He returned to his cave and started working on an upgrade to his cape, designing it to be an extension of his armor. The Asbat from Hell. Deke Mitchell, aka the Corrosive Man, broke the alkali spray that neutralized his powers and made an escape from Star Labs. He flared up, dispersed acid at every step and subdued all the guards. He got out in the storm and advanced towards exacting revenge from Mort Cadaver, who had double-crossed him in the past. While the Corrosive Man staggered towards the hospital where Cadaver was dying of brain tumor, a local hero named Joe Public was subduing the Demon's gang members. Joe had the power to absorb the energy of any assailant, weakening them while increasing his own strength. Batman was observing from above and helped Joe to get one of the escaped goons. They both overheard about the Corrosive Man and decided to team up against him. Batman faced the Corrosive Man first, but he was no match for his acidic touch. Wherever the Corrosive Man touched him, his suit melted. Neither Batman's mask nor his cape or his body armor could withstand the damage. Battling the burn wounds, he staggered after the Corrosive Man. Batman tried to use his weapons and gadgets against him, but they were all useless. With an almost tattered costume and his strength at the brink, he told Joe to absorb the powers of Corrosive Man. Once Joe absorbed the corrosive powers, Mitchell turned back to his human form. Batman incapacitated him with a punch and threw sand over him. Joe released the powers and the sand around Mitchell solidified, instantly incapacitating him. The beaten Jean-Paul went back to his cave and let the program kick in. For the entire night, he built himself an armor upgrade. He ditched the mask and put on a reinforced bat helmet. His cape was new, a formidable armored spline cape. His gauntlets were fitted with lasers for better targeting, and he was ready to unleash himself upon Gotham. There came a Punisher. In the depths of a dream, Jean-Paul found himself standing before Saint Dumas in a judgment hell. Abruptly awakened, Valley pondered whether this was spurred by trading his Saint Dumas robes for the iconic bat suit. Determined, he donned the suit and set off to find Cass Reimer, suspected of stealing Pentagon rocket fuel data, starting his search with Reimer's associate, Tony Bresci. Simultaneously, the Punisher stormed into Gotham, seeking Billy Russo, aka Jigsaw. After a barroom brawl, the lone survivor divulged Jigsaw's location, St. Ludger's Church. Jigsaw and Reimer watched tapes, scheming as they prepared a trap at the church for the Punisher. Entering the church, Punisher met a supposed nun who drugged and tried to burn him. Saved by Batman's timely intervention, a partnership was formed. Together, they aimed to take down Russo, Bresci, and recover the formula. Batman, though, vowed to hunt Punisher after the mission. Their alliance led them to Minsk Baths, suspecting former KGB agents as buyers. A brawl ensued, Batman aiding Punisher, eventually knocking the criminals unconscious. Seeking guidance from Saint Dumas, Batman noticed Punisher had disappeared and left in frustration. Driven by anger, Batman sought Bresci at the Cockman building. A skirmish ensued, Batman gaining intel about a bomb at the reservoir. Racing there, he arrived moments before the detonation, diverting disaster. Meanwhile, Punisher confronted Jigsaw, leading to a rooftop showdown. Batman intervened, saving Jigsaw, allowing Joker to free him. Batman and Punisher clashed, each delivering blows until the Punisher escaped. Seeking solace from Saint Dumas, Batman leaped into the night, feeling the weight of perceived failure. The city's darkness enveloped him as he disappeared, leaving behind the echoes of a tumultuous night. Jean-Paul's sanity was teetering at the edge. His fault line had widened. With his mind divided and his body controlled by the program, all he needed was a push towards the end. And the end had already begun. Chapter 8, KnightQuest, the beginning of the end, the bounty on the killer. As the upgraded Batman tore through the chill air of Gotham in his new armor, Graham Etchison's father Henry declared a bounty of $100,000 on Abattoir. Gangs from all over Gotham, who had the whiff of the bounty, geared up. So did Kelvin Mao, aka Ballistic, a vigilante-turned-superpowered mercenary. And so did the Malevolent Maniacs, a gang of 3 failed musicians and a convicted felon. All of them scoured through Gotham in search of Abattoir, who was nowhere to be found. Batman, on the other hand, couldn't find anything on Abattoir, even after maiming different thug joints of Gotham, as his trail had gone cold. Gordon and Tim had already given up hope on the new Batman, but Mayor Kroll kept endorsing his brutal ways. Chaos ensued at the Gotham AI warehouse as the Malevolent Maniacs attacked a person who had previously worked with the Abattoir. But Batman made an entry, this time blasting the warehouse doors by firing hand rockets from his armor. Ballistic also arrived there and suggested Batman to team up with him, but on the condition that he got the bounty. Going ballistic. Ballistic and Batman teamed up to take the Maniacs down. They would have nabbed and stopped them, but at the right moment they torched the whole warehouse and escaped. Batman and Ballistic managed to save the others at the warehouse. They made their way towards another lead, named Rough Luxor, who'd helped Abattoir escape Arkham. Meanwhile, the Maniacs had also found the same lead and rushed towards Luxor's club. They went there first and started a bloody mayhem. In the chaos, Mojo, the leader of the Maniacs, murdered Luxor. Batman and Ballistic jumped in on them and incapacitated them swiftly. They learned that the $100,000 bounty was actually issued by Winston Brock, Harry Etchison's attorney. Batman and Ballistic raided Winston's house. Deducting that Abattoir would need a new place to hide and there was no place better than a family crypt, Batman interrogated Winston about all Etchinson real estates. Ballistic took his share of bounty and left Winston tied up for the police to apprehend him. The search for truth. On the other side of the world, where Bruce Wayne was fighting not just bad guys but also a back injury, things were getting complicated. Dr. Holder had some wild idea about using fetal tissue to fix Bruce's back, but Bruce wasn't interested, not until he dealt with Benedict's Asp and Chandra Kinsolving. Asp was holding Chandra against her will. He was controlling Chandra with a serum that turned her into a puppet on his strings. Meanwhile, Bruce was juggling identities faster than a circus performer. He was playing dress-up as Sir Hemingford Grey in London, trying to piece together info about Chandra. The call to Robin brought some surprising revelations. Chandra's real name was Sandra Asplin, with a past rooted in Slag Lake. Bruce and Alfred decided to meet Chandra's adoptive mother Minnie to know the truth. It was revealed that Amos Asplin, a community big shot, had adopted Sandra, an African-American child, just to satisfy his racist ego. He used to beat Sandra and call her names. Benny Asplin, aka Mr. Asp, was Sandra's stepbrother, who was also a victim of his father's abuse. Their power manifested in childhood when Sandra and Asp's mind connected and healed Asp's wound, wrought upon by his father. Since then, Sandra became a healer in their society. Unable to bear Amos's abuse, their minds connected once again and killed Amos. Petrified, Sandra vowed never to use her powers and left her vicious life to go to med school and change her name. But, as Minnie Asplin was narrating this heartfelt story, Asp had amplified Chandra's powers and manipulated it to kill Minnie in front of Bruce and Alfred, and his next target was about to be Sir Hemingford, or, as we all know, Bruce Wayne. The search for love. Benedict Asp was reveling in his twisted triumph after using Chandra's powers and his high-tech helmet to harm his stepmother. Bruce Wayne and Alfred Pennyworth had been unfortunate witnesses to Mrs. Asplin's tragic end, prompting their swift departure from England towards Gotham City. In the car, Bruce delved into researching Asp on his computer while, unbeknownst to him, Asp was launching his wicked scheme. Asp aimed to eliminate Sir Grey using Chandra's powers and his amplified abilities courtesy of that diabolical helmet. Bruce sensed an oddness and speculated that had Grey been real, he'd probably be toast by now. Uncertain of his plan's success, Asp resorted to threatening a world leader, demanding an exorbitant $50 billion. Back in Gotham, Bruce's agony became unbearable, leading Alfred to rush him to Gotham General Hospital. Doctors advised Bruce to rest while they concocted a plan for his recovery. Meanwhile, news broadcasts detailed a threat to the US president and mentioned Monkley Village's events and Sir Grey's demise as evidence. The president had 4 days before the deadly deadline, but Bruce, refusing to stay put, clashed with Alfred. Frustrated, Alfred sought aid from Jean-Paul Valley. Bruce, ever the strategist, disguised himself again as Sir Grey, stirring up enough chaos to make headlines. Asp, intrigued by Grey's seemingly miraculous survival, schemed to capture him at Gotham Docks. Bruce left Robin a message outlining his plan, just as Jean-Paul Valley, mistaking a wheelchair-bound man for Bruce, fell for a decoy. By the time he realized his mistake, the real Bruce, posing as Grey, was already snared and being whisked away to Asp's hidden lair. His search was about to end. The search ends in the city's shadowy depths. Jean-Paul Valley, taking up the Batman mantle, unleashed a fierce beating on a decoy thug, clueless about Bruce Wayne's fate. Meanwhile, Bruce, masked as Sir Hemingford Grey, found himself at Benedict Asp's mercy. Asp, perplexed by his failed psionic weapon, probed deeper, coercing Chandra to feel hatred towards the man before her. A strange revelation hit Chandra's subconscious, recognizing not just Bruce, but also his covert identity as Batman. Asp's attempt didn't kill Bruce, but rendered him unconscious, imprisoned and awaiting his demise. Back in Gotham, Commissioner Gordon and Robin tracked Bruce's wheelchair signal to Santa Prisca amid a raging tropical storm, unable to establish communication. When Bruce awoke, he cunningly escaped, deploying gas from the wheelchair to subdue one of Asp's henchmen. Bruce sought out Chandra, discovering her confined state and engaged her in conversation. Yet, Chandra's fractured psyche spoke in childlike tones, alternating with lucidity. When she suggested Bruce transform into Batman for their escape, Asp pieced together the dual identities as he overheard them through a hidden mic. Asp barged in with his lackey, triggering a showdown. Bruce grappled with Fritz, Asp's thug, while Chandra momentarily restrained her stepbrother. Bruce subdued Fritz, but the toll was heavy, leaving him drained. Vulnerable and hurting, Bruce poured out his heart, proposing to Chandra. Moments before Asp aimed to end it all, Bruce fought back, injuring Asp, inadvertently causing Chandra's touch to inadvertently kill Asp. Shocked, Bruce believed he'd committed murder until Chandra confessed. She tended to Bruce's injuries with her healing powers throughout the stormy night, completely restoring him, but in the process, lost her mind. Returning to Gotham completely revived, Bruce ensured Chandra received an estate for perpetual care, her mind forever trapped in a childlike state. Her mental scars beyond repair, Bruce provided for her medical needs. She remained in her innocent realm, and Bruce Wayne's search culminated in the deepest heartbreak. The City of Clay. Dr. Leslie Tompkins provided guidance to the orphan kids traumatized by Abattoir's bus hijack. Meanwhile, Commissioner Gordon sought intel to apprehend the serial killer, briefly leaving Dr. Tompkins with the kids and Graham Etchison. Batman, vigilant from afar, hesitated, realizing he couldn't devote an entire night to one murder with other threats lurking in Gotham. He intervened in a street scuffle, rescuing a man from thugs when a creature leapt at him, propelling him onto a nearby rooftop. Amid their skirmish, Batman puzzled over the creature's identity, initially mistaking it for the gargoyle. However, it transformed, revealing itself as Lady Clay, her shape-shifting abilities in full play. As they battled, she recalled her past through fragmented memories, recounting a life shared with Clayface 3. Their attempt at a normal life outside the city went awry as Clayface's affliction worsened, alleviated only by transmitting his condition to others, inadvertently causing their deaths. Lady Clay revealed they were to become parents before Batman's interruption. In the midst of her recollection, Batman reacted, subduing Lady Clay, causing both to plummet. He managed to cling to safety. Lady Clay met the unforgiving pavement below. Simultaneously, Clayface 3 emerged at Dr. Tompkins' location, attacking officers and coercing Graham to join him. Knocking Graham unconscious and abducting him, Clayface fled. Batman, descending to survey the clay mass on the street, found himself ensnared by a colossal clay serpent. Struggling against its grasp, Batman fought to break free as the clay tightened its hold, trapping him completely. Clay War. Lady Clay's transformation into a giant clay serpent threatened to crush Batman, but he managed to trigger a panic button on his belt, releasing a surge of electricity from the suit. The shock incapacitated Lady Clay, leaving Batman bewildered with what to do next. Meanwhile, at the crime scene where Graham Etchison had been taken by Clayface 3, Commissioner Gordon and Leslie Tompkins examined the grim aftermath. Officer Kitch identified the culprit as Preston Payne, alias Clayface 3, alerting all units to stay vigilant. Clayface ferried Graham to an undisclosed location, while Abattoir holed up in an abandoned hideout with Clayface's son, abducted during a previous encounter with Batman. To soothe the child, Abattoir read excerpts from Lady Clay's diary, chronicling their family's life before and after the arrival of their baby. On the other hand, Batman injected Lady Clay with a potent tranquilizer and subdued her struggles. In a weakened state, she revealed her motive to Batman, her son Cassius, abducted by Abattoir. Her task was to eliminate Batman while her husband took Graham to Abattoir in exchange for their son. Before passing out, she disclosed the rendezvous spot. Batman, now aware, set out to find it. At Magenta and Vinto, the appointed meeting point, Clayface arrived with Etchison. Abattoir descended, leaving Cassius bound nearby. Clayface followed orders, but a clash ensued when he intervened, aiming to take revenge on Abattoir. Batman intervened, preventing Clayface's lethal assault, initiating a fight. Abattoir fled in a car, injuring Clayface in the process. Batman saved Cassius from a fall, engaging in combat before subduing Clayface with gas, awaiting Starlab's arrival for his custody. Meanwhile, Abattoir had his hands on Graham. He tethered Graham to a sadistic device. Graham lay over sharp nails, weights poised to intensify his agony hourly. Abattoir relished the torment, screaming and laughing in his twisted cruelty. Guns of Gotham. Batman thwarted an armed robbery in Gotham subway, culminating in gunfire. Simultaneously, across town, two expert snipers known as Gunhawk and Gun Bunny assassinated a prominent businessman from a staggering 6,000-foot distance at a penthouse party. When the GCPD's exhaustive investigation yielded no leads, Harvey Bullock sought Batman's aid. Later, at their secluded hideaway, Gunhawk and Bunny enjoyed the victory of their successful hit. Gunhawk, learning of a unique firearm showcased in a Gotham exhibition, persuaded Bunny to join in seizing the extraordinary weapon. Elsewhere, Batman interrogated the party's host, Arnold Hockett, uncovering his involvement in arranging Renfrew Talmadge's assassination and revealing Gunhawk's identity. Using the Batcomputer, Batman pinpointed Gunhawk's potential whereabouts. The sniper duo targeted the expo, initiating a shootout upon securing the prized firearm. Batman intervened, incapacitating the snipers. However, Gunhawk wielded the special weapon, overpowering Batman, attempting to flee, halting Gunhawk's assault on Batman. Gunhawk swiftly carried Bunny away, leaving Bunny riddled with bullet-ridden armor, outmatched by the potent firearm. Batman's first kill. Refusing to rest, Jean-Paul roared through the endless night as Batman and his Batmobile. He had to save Graham's life, and also apprehend the Abattoir and Gunhawk, both unfinished businesses. He had nothing else in his mind. He had to prove himself, no matter the price. On the other hand, Graham was slowly dying, tied to the death machine, while Abattoir laughed. Going through the Etchison real estate files that Batman had retrieved from Winston, Robin learned of an abandoned warehouse at Tennyson Street and deduced that it might be where Abattoir had holed up. Armed to the teeth and a costume riddled with bullet holes, Batman made his way there, too. And to make things easier for him, he found Abattoir in the doorway. Batman hit and cut Abattoir. He was in no hurry. He took his time in inflicting the pain on Abattoir, the kind of pain his programming would have allowed him to dwell. Abattoir ran, wounding the night crew at the warehouse, but Batman wounded him further, and Robin ran after them. In a surge of rage, Batman jumped at Abattoir and took him flying into a vat of molten metal. Batman escaped mid-air, while Abattoir lay hanging by a chain, his grip loosening slowly. And then, just then, the visions came. Batman saw the apparitions of his father Azrael and Saint Dumas. While Azrael told him to slay Abattoir, Dumas beckoned to save him. Confused and in mental trauma, Batman left the scene to the apparitions, telling them to do as they pleased, and Abattoir fell to his fiery death. Robin watched dumbfounded as Batman did nothing. Later, in the Batcave, Jean-Paul screamed in mental pain, while somewhere in Gotham, Graham Etchison died a painful death, vomiting up blood in the death machine as the weights fell on his chest. The crusade was lost. Everything was lost. A friend, no more. In the heart of Gotham's turmoil, Batman struggled with the decision that he made with Abattoir's life. As the night draped the city in its dark embrace, the consequences of his actions reverberated within him. Neither remorse nor guilt weighed upon his conscience. Instead, a solemn righteousness cloaked his very being. Meanwhile, beneath the city's watchful gaze, a sinister scheme brewed. A street gang plotted a nocturnal assault on an upscale restaurant, extorting protection fees from other establishments in the city. On the other hand, Detective Bullock and Detective Montoya discovered the lifeless body of Graham in an abandoned warehouse. Commissioner Gordon, alerted to this tragic discovery, hastened to summon the Dark Knight. Upon the GCPD's rooftop, an austere confrontation unfolded. Gordon, the stalwart beacon of justice, confronted Batman, unmasking the truth that had long eluded him. In the wake of an innocent life lost, Gordon demanded accountability from the vigilante, questioning the path stained by irreversible consequences. Defiant and resolute, Batman upheld his unwavering crusade to cleanse the city of all malignant forces, vowing to do whatever was necessary. As Batman departed, Gordon grappled with a torrent of emotions, a sense of betrayal, abandonment, and the haunting absence of his once trusted ally. He took out his gun and broke the bat signal to pieces. The night unraveled further in chaos as Batman descended upon the gang's impending violence, meting out ruthless justice. Then he returned to the Batcave and began sketching the contours of a new upgrade, the ultimate manifestation of Batman. The ultimate Batman. In the shadows of Gotham, Jean-Paul Valley meticulously fine-tuned the Batsuit again, an armor that had become an extension of his very being. Each adjustment was a calculated response to the city's escalating threats. This latest upgrade was a symphony of defense. Bulletproof plating, metal ailerons replacing the cape, a flamethrower fitted into the gauntlet, and the shuriken launcher, now an automatic rapid-fire arsenal. All of this was a strategic adaptation, a response triggered by his implanted system to counter the imminent threat of Gunhawk. As the city simmered with tension, Batman, clad in his revamped suit, descended into the underground tunnels aboard the Bat subway rocket. The GCPD radio crackled with reports of a violent altercation at Mercy General Hospital. Instinctively, Batman knew it was the handiwork of Gunhawk, who might have taken his wounded partner Bunny to the hospital. Outside the hospital, chaos reigned. Officer Kitch valiantly attempted negotiation, met only with Gunhawk's lethal retort from a hospital window. Observing from a distant vantage point, the tactical team, armed with snipers, held their breath as Batman stealthily infiltrated the hospital. The confrontation ignited instantly as Gunhawk turned his firepower on the Dark Knight. Amidst the exchange of bullets and blows, Batman maneuvered, seizing the moment when Gunhawk's arsenal ran dry. Swiftly, he subdued the assailant, his mind haunted by thoughts of justice and vengeance, entangled with memories of Abattoir's outcome. But the tides turned abruptly when the tactical unit barged in. Bullets sprayed the room as chaos engulfed the hospital. Batman slipped away, leaving Gunhawk to face the justice he so deserved. From the shadows, Batman watched as Gunhawk was apprehended by the law, a silent sentinel bearing witness to the city's unending cycle of crime and retribution. The quest ends. Bruce Wayne, now recovered, accompanied Tim to the airport to escort Jack Drake back to the house. Bruce told Tim that he'd made up his mind about retiring. He wanted to hand over the mantle of Bat to Jean-Paul completely and live his life in the light, doing good as Bruce Wayne. Initially reluctant, Tim finally divulged the truth about Jean-Paul's increasing madness and the death of Abattoir at his hands. Bruce remained baffled. He understood that Alfred and Tim kept him oblivious about the incidents in Gotham so that he could focus on his own well-being. Bruce hammered down the barrier that Jean-Paul had built to keep everyone out of the cave and went in with Tim. Jean-Paul arrived in his underground Batmobile and immediately questioned Bruce's intent to visit. Bruce confronted him about the sins that he'd committed and questioned his methods of rage. Jean-Paul's mind was completely one note now. He said that he did his best to bring the city back. There was no place for compassion with cold-hearted criminals. He further stated that Bruce didn't deserve the mantle of Bat. When Bruce tried to stop him, Jean-Paul pushed him with such force that Bruce started bleeding. Jean-Paul left after warning Bruce that he wasn't allowed in the cave. Tim tried to stop him in his car, but he couldn't keep up. Bruce promised him that he was going to take Jean-Paul down, but for that, he had to undergo a crash course under a master trainer, so that he could get back his muscle memory and conditioning. Bruce asked Tim to hold on, as he was ready to sell his soul to get back in the game. Bruce needed to come back, but a dangerous ordeal awaited him in order to make his return. Gordon had no more faith in Batman. Tim was torn between so many dire responsibilities. Jean-Paul's mind was fractured, and the only way to stop him was to end him. Everything seemed lost. It was the murkiest night just before dawn, and the night was about to end. Chapter 9, Night's End. Struggle. Bruce Wayne had healed physically since Bane's brutal attack, but his heroic skills lagged behind. He wasn't ready to reclaim the Batman persona or don the symbol. To challenge Jean-Paul Valley, he needed the guidance of a master, a deadly assassin with unlimited martial arts prowess, Lady Shiva. But she had a condition. Bruce had to learn the prowess of Leopard Blow, a deadly move. After intense training, Bruce improved, yet he felt he wasn't back at full strength. When he refused to use the lethal move, Shiva devised a different test. Wearing a Bat Spirit Tengu mask, Shiva killed the armless master in his sanctuary. The master warned that his 7 skilled disciples would seek vengeance. At their next meeting, Shiva sent Bruce, masked, to Chinatown. Mistaken for the master's killer, Bruce fought fiercely against the first disciple, refusing to kill. Despite Bruce sparing the attacker, Shiva executed him. Facing the second disciple, Bruce's increased familiarity with combat shortened the fight. Meanwhile, Jean-Paul Valley battled inner demons, haunted by visions of Saint Dumas and his father, torn between Azrael and Batman's legacies. Unaware of his turmoil, Robin observed. Jean-Paul pursued gunrunners. He discovered that they were connected to his father's murderer, none other than Carlton Lahar, and this escalated the situation into a fiery vendetta. Robin intervened to save the lives of the ones who Jean-Paul endangered. Standing atop Gotham's tallest tower, memories of his fearless first night as Batman clashed with Bruce's present doubts. He wasn't ready yet. He had to train more. Friends. Bruce kept training himself in order to become the man he once was. A new challenge was coming his way. A new master, Manimal. Bruce knew that he was the only one who stood between Jean-Paul and Gotham, and there was no turning back. Meanwhile, in Gotham, Robin deduced the connection of Lahar through the sigil of the Order of Dumas, so he went to meet Bruce about it. He was finally happy to find that Bruce had called in additional help, none other than Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing. Both Nightwing and Robin leaped into the night with the responsibility of keeping Gotham in order and relaying every information on Jean-Paul to Bruce. Meanwhile, in the Batcave, Jean-Paul awoke. He now slept in his bat costume and never took it off. Visions were now a daily trauma for him, accusing him of not doing his duty properly. He met Rudy Elson in order to learn the current whereabouts of Lahar, but unfortunately there was no lead. He left Rudy and his gang in a pool of blood. Meanwhile, the Manimal had come to exact his blood debt. Bruce used the Way of the Wild Beast in order to ambush Manimal. A silent fight ensued, with each one dwelling mastered deadly moves against another, and the other countering it with ease and prowess. Finally, Bruce and Manimal faced each other on a log in a free-flowing river, their eyes locked, their next moves rehearsed in their mind. They leapt at each other. But Bruce's fight was for something more than just a debt. It was for justice. He swiftly subdued Manimal and threw him into the river. He fished Manimal's unconscious body out of the river and pondered on his next challenge. Bruce stood atop the Gotham Tower again. He was mentally ready to take on Jean-Paul. He could feel every muscle resonating to his first leap as Batman. But his soul, now wiser, told him that it was not time yet. He had to become more. Strength. Nightwing and Robin climbed their way down to the Batcave, as Jean-Paul had sealed the entrance off again. Nightwing was heartbroken to see that the Batcave had entirely changed since he left. It didn't feel like home to him anymore. There they met Harold and learned that Harold had built a separate cave at a distance where he could continue his work and also keep his eyes on Jean-Paul. Nightwing and Robin holed up with Harold in his cave. Meanwhile, Bruce faced a horde of ninjas in the heart of Gotham. They attacked him ruthlessly, but he was able to defend himself with the help of his skills. Just as he was trying to escape the deadly attackers, another master attacked Bruce. They started to fight on a car top, where Bruce was able to defeat the master and incapacitate him. But the car atop which they were fighting was driven by the sixth master assassin. She attacked Bruce, but Bruce was saved by a twist of luck, and Shiva observed everything from a distance, mesmerized. Elsewhere in Gotham, Jean-Paul worked sleeplessly in a trance of pain and visions, his mind no more under his control. He kept tearing through gangs and thugs in search of Lahar, as he had to avenge his father. Also, he believed that Lahar would take away his dark city from him, and he wasn't going to let him do that. Even when he returned to the cave, he displayed fits of madness, screaming at his visions, while Nightwing and Robin watched him through secret cameras. Mistrust. Jean-Paul embarked on his determined quest to locate Lahar under the watchful eyes of Nightwing and Robin. Meanwhile, Bruce, donning the mask of Tengu, descended from Gotham Tower with utmost caution. But just at that moment, another team of ninjas attacked. On the other hand, Jean-Paul sought more intel from an arms dealer named Candy, discovering the whereabouts of the gunrunner at the Gotham Navy Yard. Nightwing and Robin, concerned about Jean-Paul, sought Bruce's whereabouts. Jean-Paul arrived at the yard, facing and overcoming thugs before a surprise helicopter ambush. Swiftly reacting, he eliminated the threat and confronted a foe in advanced armor. After a brutal fight, Jean-Paul subdued the armored threat, but he was vengeful. He couldn't stop. He ended the fight by lighting his flamethrower, severely burning the already fallen foe and obliterating everything in its vicinity. Near the Wayne Tower, Bruce fought the ninjas, culminating in a showdown with the Ultimate Master. The battle was intense, with both adversaries evenly matched, analyzing each other's moves. Bruce gained the upper hand, but the victory was shadowed by Bruce's realization that more adversaries would follow if he didn't end the fight there and then. Aware of Lady Shiva's ulterior motives, Bruce finally used the leopard blow and drove the master's nasal bones into his brain, killing him and ending the fight. Nightwing and Robin arrived at the scene, witnessing in disbelief. Bruce Wayne, in a moment of combat, had taken a life. Rebirth. Nightwing confronted Bruce about his morality and how it had fallen so much that he had to take a life. But the confrontation was halted as Lady Shiva made her entry. She assured Bruce that he'd done well and ended the conflict. She took the Tengu mask back and told Bruce that one day he would have to fight her. Once Shiva left, Robin and Nightwing were surprised to find out that the Master, who was supposed to be dead, was actually alive. It was an act that Bruce had put to end the blood debt and satisfy Shiva. The heroes rushed the wounded Master to the hospital. Meanwhile, on his quest to find Lahar, Jean-Paul had gone on a rampage against some members of Gotham's organized crime, causing trouble for corrupt businessman Penn Selkirk. Selkirk made a decision that Batman had to be dealt with. Concurrently, Shiva confronted the ninjas wearing the Mask of Tengu, declaring their quest over and defeating them all. With Gotham in chaos, the Gotham City Police Department found themselves at a loss, and even Commissioner Gordon had started to lose hope. As night fell, Nightwing and Robin began preparing the Batcave, while Bruce made the decision to finally return. At the same time, in Blackgate Penitentiary, the section housing inmates from Arkham Asylum became unusually active. Bane woke up in shock from his catatonic state, dreaming of bats attacking him. Somewhere in his heart, he knew and declared that Batman had returned. Bruce Wayne stood in his classical Batman garb as Robin and Nightwing beheld in awe. He was ready to take back the night. He was ready to take back Gotham. Confrontation. Bruce leapt into the night sky of Gotham as Batman, his capes fluttering, his silhouette against the brightly lit crime city marking his return. He was back in body and soul. He was back to reclaim what is his to protect. He was back as the one true Batman. Amidst the chaos, Catwoman interrogated one of Selkirk's armored goons about him and the cybernetic neural enabler. Ambushed by armed guards, she swiftly neutralized them but succumbed to unconsciousness from another goon's attack. Selkirk opted to keep her alive for questioning. Simultaneously, Jean-Paul had headed to Selkirk's, convinced of his involvement with Lahar. Selkirk summoned Catwoman to his penthouse while handling business in the parking garage. Catwoman effortlessly escaped, just as Jean-Paul stormed into the garage. Selkirk had planned a helicopter escape from the penthouse, but Catwoman intercepted him. Jean-Paul intervened and threw Catwoman aside like a puppet, pressing Selkirk about Lahar, who claimed Lahar was deceased. Unconvinced, Jean-Paul moved to attack a guard, but someone stopped him dead in his tracks. It was Bruce Wayne, now Batman, accompanied by Nightwing and Robin, and it was high time that Jean-Paul answered for his crimes. War. Bruce ordered Jean-Paul to stop so that he could take the criminals in. Jean-Paul pressed on the matter that Bruce was broken. He retired, and he was history. The mantle of the Bat was passed to him, and it was his to keep. Bruce told Jean-Paul that making him Batman was the biggest mistake of his life. Come what may, he will stop Jean-Paul. And then a bloody battle ensued, the Battle of the Batmen. Amidst the chaos of the Batman's clash, Selkirk had ordered his men to eliminate Catwoman while he planned his escape using a helicopter. Catwoman adeptly evaded the assailants, never giving up her pursuit of Selkirk. Meanwhile, Nightwing and Robin swiftly neutralized Selkirk's remaining guards downstairs. In the mayor's office, Jim Gordon and Armand Kroll engaged in a heated debate regarding Batman's recent methods. Their conversation abruptly halted as Gordon received a phone call detailing the unfolding situation at Selkirk's location. Selkirk boarded the helicopter, closely trailed by Catwoman in hot pursuit. In an attempt to eliminate the Batman, he directed the pilot to swing the helicopter around, readying for a heavy-duty machine gun assault. Yet, Catwoman, using a whip, managed to board the moving aircraft and promptly disarmed Selkirk. Sensing an opportunity, Bruce utilized Jean-Paul's grapple to latch onto the helicopter, initiating a perilous struggle that propelled them away from the engulfed terrace. This caused the helicopter to spiral dangerously out of control, hurtling towards the bridge spanning the river as Bullock and everyone else stared in astonishment. As Bat, hanging precariously from Selkirk's careening helicopter, Bruce Wayne and Jean-Paul Valley found themselves hurtling toward the Gotham River Bridge, Catwoman aboard with them. Below, Nightwing and Robin swiftly took out the remaining goons, securing the street. Catwoman leapt off as the helicopter crashed onto the bridge, but during the feat, a wrench struck her, rendering her unconscious and sending her hurtling towards the river. Bruce unhooked Jean-Paul's line and swooped in to save Catwoman. Meanwhile, Nightwing and Robin scrambled to evacuate civilians as debris rained down. Reaching Bruce, Jean-Paul engaged in a fierce duel on the bridge cables. Trapped inside the malfunctioning helicopter, Selkirk and his men faced imminent danger from electric sparks and leaking fuel. As Jean-Paul aimed to inflict pain, the descending fuel caught Bruce's attention. He swiftly maneuvered Jean-Paul into the fuel's path, engulfing him in flames as he plummeted into the river. Bruce rushed to rescue Selkirk and his crew. Seeing this sense of preservation of life, Catwoman understood that the real Batman had returned. Nightwing and Robin searched for Jean-Paul's body but found nothing. Amidst the chaos, Bruce and a hesitant Catwoman saved Selkirk's men. Catwoman demanded the neural enabler from Selkirk, who callously tossed it into the river before the helicopter exploded. Bruce hurried to the Batmobile to track down Jean-Paul, unaware that Jean-Paul had sabotaged it. Starting the engine triggered an explosion, shocking Nightwing and Robin, who turned to see Jean-Paul, asserting himself as the sole true Batman. Jean-Paul's Bat costume had been burnt completely red by the fire. With the mind and body of Azrael and the mantle of the Bat, He was Asbat, the ultimate punishing angel. Escalation. Nightwing leapt at Jean-Paul in a fit of rage, thinking that Bruce died in the explosion. He called Jean-Paul a pretender and got into a fight with him. He screamed that Jean-Paul was nothing like Bruce and kept punching him hard without stopping. There was fire everywhere on the bridge surrounding them. Robin wasted no time and jumped in to help all the innocent bystanders who were in danger. Nightwing pushed Jean-Paul from the bridge, but Jean-Paul pulled Nightwing with him, and they both fell into the water. Robin was surprised to find that Bruce was still alive, as he'd escaped from the burning car right on time. Underwater, Nightwing and Jean-Paul fought. Nightwing somehow escaped, holding his breath, and swam to a nearby boat. But Jean-Paul was already there, and he pulled Nightwing up. Another fight ensued. Jean-Paul now hell-bent to murder Nightwing. He screamed that once he was done with Nightwing, he'd kill Robin, and then the city would be all his, with no one to interfere. Nightwing held his footing and fought back hard, but a moment came when he had to save a bystander rather than focus on the fight. That was Jean-Paul's cue. He beat Nightwing, subdued him, and lifted him up in the air, aiming to finish him. But just then, the police intervened. Jean-Paul threw Nightwing at them and escaped. Nightwing was on the verge of unconsciousness and kept ranting about how he failed and couldn't stop Jean-Paul. Jean-Paul made his way back to the cave. Like a knife, he moved through the caves, declaring that the city of Gotham rested under the blade of Azrael. In his mind, he'd already killed Bruce Wayne, the Pretender, and it would be very easy for him to kill his accomplices. But just then, he found that someone had entered the manor. Thinking it was Robin, he rushed upwards to kill him. But it was Bruce, garbed as Batman, and he came to put an end to Jean-Paul's madness. And there they stood, in the entrance of the Wayne Manor, Bruce and Jean-Paul, both garbed as Batman. Both Batman, in their own right. Jean-Paul commanded Bruce to leave and never come back. Bruce assured him that he wasn't there to fight. He created Batman, and he owned the manor, and Jean-Paul had to stop. But Jean-Paul refuted. He broke Bruce's parents' photo and threw it at him. Bruce understood that it was hopeless to negotiate with a mindless monster, so he resorted to force, and the final fight ensued. Jean-Paul shot batarangs at Bruce and escaped towards the cave. Bruce realized, apart from Jean-Paul's rage, there was something else in his voice. It was fear. He used another entrance to get into the cave, the one through which he fell when he was a child. He reached inside and saw Jean-Paul sitting motionless in his chair, asking Saint Dumas regarding his crusade. Bruce hid and answered Jean-Paul's call as Saint Dumas, assuring him that Batman was not real. What was real was his identity as Jean-Paul Valley. But Jean-Paul discovered the ruse and attacked Bruce. He screamed that he was Batman, and if he wasn't, then he would be nothing. He did not want to be nothing. Bruce realized that Jean-Paul, though immensely powerful, was slow and awkward, so he decided to use it to his advantage. He turned on his night vision lenses and crawled inside a narrow cave. Jean-Paul too switched on the night vision and followed. A point came where he could get no closer to Bruce because of his costume, so slowly he got rid of the bulk. In the end, Jean-Paul found Bruce. There was no room to run, and Jean-Paul was wearing only the bat helmet, 2 bats in a crawl space, looking at each other with night vision clear as day, ready to clash. But just then, Bruce lifted a lid and the cave filled up with light. Jean-Paul screamed in agony as the light hit his eyes with night vision. He hastily opened his helmet and threw it aside. For the first time after a long time, he could see. He could see the real Batman standing in front of him. Jean-Paul gave up. He asked Bruce to give him up to the police, but Bruce denied. A long time back, he had fallen through that hole in the ground. That day, he lifted Jean-Paul Valley through it and saw the light. He let Jean-Paul go and told him to do better and be better. He'd forgiven Jean-Paul and was yet to forgive himself someday. Aftermath. Robin cautiously returned to the Batcave, unsure of the circumstances awaiting him. His relief was palpable upon finding Bruce Wayne there following Jean-Paul's departure. Bruce hinted at forthcoming changes but left without elaboration. Seeking rest, Tim made his way home, hoping for some respite. Hoping for some much-needed rest, Tim's peace was shattered by the Bat Signal's call. Donning the Robin costume, he rushed to the Gotham Museum of Antiquities, where the police were engaged with criminals. Stealthily infiltrating the scene, he extracted information from a thug about the criminals' whereabouts. Exhaustion took its toll on Tim as he awaited Batman's arrival, but Batman arrived in his full glory to help. Upon awakening, he assisted Batman in thwarting an ambush. Subsequently, after capturing the criminals, Batman extended an offer for Robin to continue as his partner. They departed, leaving the police to handle the aftermath. Commissioner Gordon, while relieved about the Bat Signal's restoration, harbored uncertainties regarding Batman's future despite the operation's success. Punishment. Amidst the shadows of a Gotham paint factory, Punisher clashed with Luke Tango's crew, igniting an explosion that pierced the city's quietude, summoning Bruce as Batman. Rushing to intervene, Batman confronted the Punisher, who swiftly slipped away. However, Punisher had already spotted the difference between the Batman he met previously and the Batman now. Soon, revelations unfolded. Jigsaw, restructured by the Joker's surgery, emerged from a vendetta against Jimmy Navarrone's criminal reign. Batman and Punisher prowled Gotham streets while Robin and Micro delved into Navarrone's digital stronghold. Their paths converged as Jigsaw and the Joker converged on Navarrone. A chaotic showdown ensued. In a climactic showdown, the Punisher disfigured Jigsaw once more. Batman subdued Jigsaw, while the Punisher pursued the Joker with the intent to kill him. However, Batman intervened in the nick of time, granting the Joker an opportunity to escape. Frustration led the Punisher to strike Batman, and Batman allowed him. Punisher took another strike, but Batman quickly incapacitated him, warning that any return to Gotham would result in confinement in Arkham. In the end, Batman departed, and the Punisher opted to leave Gotham as well. Conclusion. After his defeat by Bruce Wayne, Jean-Paul Valley roamed the labyrinthine streets of Gotham, his identity as the Bat, stripped away. Lost and adrift, he found solace among the destitute beneath a bridge. Legs, one among the homeless, attempted to uplift him with his own tragic tale from Vietnam, but Jean-Paul remained aloof, consumed by memories of his dual life as Azrael and Batman. Haunted by the void left by his relinquished personas, he spiraled into a desolate abyss, perceiving himself as valueless without the masks he wore. His mind was a jigsaw, unable to fit in the pieces. Filled with despair, he resigned to his seemingly futile existence. Amidst the shadowy underbelly, three aggressors menaced the homeless, brimming with weariness yet a flicker of inner resolve. Jean-Paul emerged from the shadows, thwarting their aggression. Though drained and feeble, a glimmer of hope stirred within him, a faint echo that whispered of redemption. So ended the story of Jean-Paul Valley, and with him, his crusade. The Mad King was finished. Even if he didn't ask for it, he gave his best in the role of Batman, and in the course, lost everything. Bruce was back, but he had other plans before he could completely return. Now was the time for a proper replacement, someone who would look after Gotham like he was born to do so. It was time that the rightful successor filled in for Bruce while he tied up some loose ends. It was time that the prodigal son donned the cowl. It was time for Dick Grayson to become Batman. Chapter 10. Prodigal. Once a Robin. Bruce Wayne, struggling with his readiness to reclaim the Batman mantle, entrusted the symbolic responsibility to Dick Grayson, his original ward. Dick, a mix of gratitude and unease, stepped into the revered role of Batman, feeling both honored and hesitant. He walked through the manor with Tim, and a wave of memories passed over him in that place where he grew up. And then the bat signal lit up the dark Gotham sky, and Batman and Robin answered. Commissioner Gordon, encountering the new Dark Knight at the precinct, immediately sensed the shift. Relieved it wasn't Jean-Paul, he disclosed a series of killings near Gotham River to Batman and Robin. Securing a speedboat from Wayne Enterprises marina, the duo ventured forth to investigate. Simultaneously, Killer Croc resurfaced, aiming to establish dominance in Gotham's criminal realm. Terrifying the waterfront, he hunted for Peretti, the new power man behind the scenes, eliminating informants ruthlessly. A warehouse showdown erupted, pitting Batman, Robin, and Killer Croc in a fierce battle. Protecting Robin became Batman's priority amid Croc's relentless assault. Though challenged, Batman subdued the monstrous foe, ensuring his capture by the authorities. Croc was shot during the altercation, but he survived. Returning triumphant to the Batcave, something plagued Dick's mind. He wasn't able to stop Croc from getting hurt, and despite their victory, he was filled with self-doubt, questioning his ability to embody the legendary Dark Knight. Meanwhile, Commissioner Gordon confided in his wife Sarah, expressing concern about the new Batman, uncertain about the successor to the iconic vigilante. The villainous ventriloquist. In the murky underworld of Gotham, the ventriloquist and his puppet Scarface staged a chilling assault on Bobby, a drug peddler. His men silenced Bobby's lieutenants, coercing him into their foreboding limousine. The demand? A meeting with Bobby's boss, Marty Vetch. Bobby's defiance met Scarface's wrath. A harrowing corkscrew was used to kill him before his body was cast into the abyss of the ocean. Scarface, the puppet master of their malevolent plot, aimed to tarnish Vetch's reputation by tainting his heroin shipments. Meanwhile, within the suffocating confines of Blackgate Prison, overburdened guards struggled with an influx of inmates. Amidst the monotony, there was a computer glitch. A convict named Harvey Kent was going to get his parole. Two-Face seized the opportunity and escaped under the guise of Harvey Kent. In the halls of Wayne Manor, the absence of Alfred lingered, a void acutely felt by Dick and Tim. As night draped its shroud, they transformed from caretakers to vigilantes, delving into the depths of the Batcave. Clues unraveled a sinister link between contaminated heroin shipments and the ventriloquist and Scarface's malevolent machinations. The Batmobile thundered through Gotham's arteries, hurtling into the Wharfdale district, thrust into a volatile clash between Scarface's syndicate and Marty Vetch's thugs. Amidst the chaos, Batman extracted information, seeking the whereabouts of Wesker. the linchpin in their pursuit. Atop Marty Vetch's penthouse, the ventriloquist and Scarface barged in, audaciously claiming control. Yet, justice arrived swiftly in the form of Batman and Robin, shattering through windows to confront Vetch's entourage. Wesker and Scarface sought escape, leading to a gripping struggle. The ventriloquist fell into Batman's grasp, Scarface's command ringing out as Rhino, a loyal henchman, snatched the puppet. The ventriloquist was left to face the justice system's retribution. Elsewhere in the city's shadows, Two-Face contemplated his next nefarious move, his legendary coin flipping, determining the fate of Gotham's impending chaos. The rampaging rat-catcher. In a tense courtroom, Otis Flanagan faced a parole hearing, a chance at freedom dangling before him. As questioning began, an eerie note cut through the air, the haunting melody of a flute. With uncanny precision, Flanagan summoned a legion of rats, a bizarre escape unfolding amidst Batman and Robin's futile attempts to contain him. Meanwhile, Dick tasked Tim with unearthing the Ratcatcher's sordid past, only to stumble upon a startling revelation, Two-Face's recent release. But before the pursuit of Flanagan could commence, Tim found himself torn between duty and an invitation to a tennis play from Jack Drake. Juggling conflicting priorities, Tim relayed the information to Dick, prompting a strategic plan to ensnare Flanagan and glean clues about Two-Face's whereabouts. Their quest for answers led them to Commissioner Gordon, who shed light on Two-Face's premature prison departure. Gordon couldn't help but acknowledge the shifting dynamics within the mantle of the Bat. Amidst the night's chaos, Two-Face stirred unrest in a pub, while Flanagan orchestrated his dark design in the sewers, rallying an army of rats poised to unleash havoc by obstructing the city's waterways. Batman, aided by a tracking device ingeniously attached to a rat, zeroed in on Flanagan. A frantic struggle ensued, culminating in Batman halting Flanagan's malevolent scheme and dispersing the remaining rats. In the wake of this victory, a foreboding realization loomed. Two-Face lingered as a formidable adversary, his looming presence casting a shadow of uncertainty over Gotham's future. Dick Grayson braced himself for the impending clash, recognizing that his most dangerous challenges lay ahead in the confrontation with this dichotomous danger, the terror of Two-Face. The stress during the entire event with Jean-Paul had left Tim drained, giving him awkward nightmares. He was struggling with balancing his personal life and being Robin to Dick's Batman. Meanwhile, in an abandoned building, Two-Face decided to focus on killing Robin. But before he did that, he chalked out a pandemonium through which he could cause the law and justice infrastructure of Gotham to collapse. Two-Face attacked a bar and killed 12 attorneys. He had further plans to kill judges, jurors, and district attorneys as well. Dick and Tim surveilled the crime scene as Batman and Robin, but had no clues where Two-Face was going to strike next. Also, deep in his psyche, Dick remembered his first encounter with Two-Face. It was when Dick and Bruce almost died due to Dick's mistake. Tim understood his feelings and told him to keep a distance from the crimes while solving it, but Dick always preferred a closer approach. And to add to this turmoil, the dynamic duo received a call for help. Two-Face had attacked the city courthouse and had plans to destroy all existing data on every criminal and every case that ever happened in Gotham. While anarchy loomed over Gotham, Batman and Robin rushed towards the courthouse. Two-Face strikes twice. Batman and Robin intervened right at the moment when Two-Face was about to put his nefarious scheme into action. They took out Two-Face's gunmen but couldn't stop him from escaping the scene with a hostage. Neither Batman nor Robin had thought of bringing the Batmobile along. They had nothing to do but wait for Two-Face to strike again. At the manor, Dick helped him to put things into places and clean up his childhood home, while he discussed his own fears and anxiety with Tim. But Two-Face had an entirely catastrophic plan for Gotham. He'd secured an access disk from the courthouse, using which he could change all the files of every ongoing case. He could make the guilty innocent and the innocent non-existent. With a flip of his coin, he chose vengeance and tweaked the justice apparatus of the city. Now, all the case files in Gotham had falsified data. The chain reaction resulted in a hostage situation when a bus was sent to transport a group of criminals to the Blackgate facility. Batman and Robin rushed to the Regency Theatre where the situation was taking place. Batman assured Gordon that they were going to contain the criminals. Batman and Robin were able to incapacitate many of the thugs, but Gordon also jumped in and helped free the hostages. Meanwhile, in a dark corner of Gotham, Two-Face murdered his own henchman Ralphie, just for fun, while Dick and Tim struggled to deal with the citywide cyber attack. Big trouble at Blackgate. In the tumultuous heart of Gotham, Two-Face brooded, discontent with the unbalanced chaos he'd ignited. To him, a singular side to the plot lacked the symmetry he craved. He embarked on a quest to meet the man inadvertently responsible for his newfound liberty, Harvey Kent. Meanwhile, within the precincts of the GCPD, Commissioner Gordon struggled with Mayor Kroll's irksome demands, compounded by his wife Sarah's concerns and his own wavering trust in the legion of Batmen patrolling the city. At Blackgate Penitentiary, an overflowing influx of convicts strained the already packed facility, sparking a potential riot among the inmates. Warden Zerhard, trapped in a dire predicament, struggled to contain the brewing turmoil. In a parallel sequence of events, Two-Face zeroed in on Harvey Kent and kidnapped him. Simultaneously, turmoil erupted at Wayne Enterprises as a representative from Troika, a Russian insurance firm, wreaked havoc, leaving tragedy in his wake. As Blackgate descended into Bedlam, Jim Gordon, entangled in a domestic dispute, received a distress call from the beleaguered prison. Batman and Robin, attuned to the city's distress through the Batcave's monitors, devised a plan. Opting for a stealthy airborne approach, Batman set forth, Robin reluctantly stepping back. Gliding in motion, Batman descended upon Blackgate, engaging the armed inmates and thwarting the Arkham detainees. Employing the iconic bat signal as a beacon of authority, he quelled the riot, dismantling their leader, Tatum. With the GCPD's arrival, Batman departed, his mind now consumed with the thought of how to stop Two-Face's escalating vendetta, while somewhere in Gotham, Two-Face furthered his villainous scheme. Face to face. Gotham had spiraled into a maelstrom of malevolence and mayhem. Violence against lawmen was rising up everywhere. Street gangs were gathering up against the entire justice system and attacking policemen. Dick Grayson, now Batman, was able to thwart one such attack, but every challenge he faced made him one more destination late to the epicenter of the quake, Two-Face. Elsewhere, Two-Face had already sabotaged Gotham's legal library to destroy the Hall of Records. While Gordon dealt with domestic issues with Sarah, Robin jumped to investigate a lead based on Oracle's cues. Batman, on the other hand, was busy stopping the escape of Cluemaster from a police hall. Batman subdued Cluemaster, but just then he received Robin's call, but Robin was already captured by Two-Face. In the clutches of Two-Face, Robin found himself bound to a table alongside Harvey Kent. An avalanche of paperwork was tethered above them, poised to crush them both. Two-Face was prepared to sever the cords, sealing their fate. Amidst this impending catastrophe, Batman emerged and swiftly subdued Two-Face's henchmen. He rescued Robin and Kent, employing a forklift to safely extract them from the perilous trap. Securing their safety, Batman engaged Two-Face in a fierce battle, a clash of wills and wits. In the end, Batman emerged victorious and waited for the police to arrive and apprehend Two-Face. But bittersweet realization dawned upon Dick. He was getting good at being Batman. But when Bruce returned, he might have to give up. The formation of Troika. Tim's life was already tumultuous, juggling his dual duties and social responsibilities. But the new addition actually hurt. Tim got into an altercation with a few bullies while watching a movie with Ariana, and he got beat up. He couldn't retaliate because he would have divulged his secret identity. Dick was very caring and took Tim out as Robin with him so that he could vent his frustration during crime fighting. Tim also met the bullies that had beaten him earlier and subdued them with his martial arts skills. He was momentarily happy about it, but Ariana's uncle was threatened by the Molina criminals for protection money and their whole family was shaken up. This just added another feather in the hat of Tim's problems. Meanwhile, in an undisclosed location, three leaders came together and raised a toast to their union of underworld. The Russians, the Aparachiks, and the Molinas of the Afghan. They'd formed a Troika to fill Gotham's crime vacuum, and they'd hired a dangerous assassin to put Batman and Robin in the grave, the KG Beast. The War Zone. In the aftermath of Two-Face's intrusion into police files, Batman and Robin confronted the aftermath, a mess left behind. Three fugitives remained at large, possibly lurking within Battergate, a Gotham suburb entrenched in infamy as the War Zone, a haven for criminals seeking refuge from the law's reach. These terrible criminals were Bonaventure Strake, a drug maker and dealer, John McCone, a soldier and enforcer for Tony Bresci, and Sui Chung, a skilled martial artist. Dick opted to tackle the task solo, granting Robin respite. As Batman, Dick plunged into the chaos, into the literal hell. While Chung went on a killing spree, murdering his former partners, Batman followed the clues and faced Strake. Big as Strake was, he was no match for Batman's skills, and fell hard. Next was McCone, whom Batman incapacitated while he was holding a hostage. Then he followed the lead to an abandoned warehouse to apprehend Chung. He fought a gang of thugs and simultaneously took out Chung. Dick had come for 3. Instead, he got to bag almost 10 criminals that night. He was tired and in pain, his costume tattered. As he prepared to depart, 3 sudden gunshots shattered the quiet of the night, a stark reminder of the ceaseless criminal underbelly consuming Gotham. Fatigue weighed heavily on him, the magnitude of crime overwhelming him. He prayed for the one true Batman to return. He prayed for Bruce to come back, while the bat symbol eclipsed his heart. The reminiscence. A few nights later, Dick woke up suddenly in captivity in the Batman garb. He'd blacked out. He couldn't remember how, and his abductor was standing right in front of him. The Tallyman. Tallyman had been in pursuit of Batman after he recovered from the brutal bat scar inflicted on him by the frenzied Jean Paul, and all he wanted was to settle the debts. After Tallyman showed him the painful bat scar carved on his chest, Dick understood that he was paying for the deeds of Jean Paul. Tallyman revealed how he nabbed Dick with a fake call for help. Dick felt stupid, but he decided to play along and learn more about Tallyman, just to keep him engaged while he filed away the rope that was binding him. He taunted Tallyman with assumptions that fit his profile and got him agitated, but at the same time, Dick's entire life, a ballad of triumphs and failures, flashed before his eyes. He remembered his circus life, the tragic death of his parents, his time as Robin, and then as Nightwing, and he was overwhelmed. Dick managed to free himself and immediately engaged Tallyman. In the mayhem, Tallyman accidentally got tangled into a cogwheel, but Batman saved him. Although Tallyman tried to escape, Dick tied him up and left him hanging from a bridge to be picked up by the cops. Tired and in pain and doubt, Dick struggled home. The return. Batman and Robin delved into a perplexing mob homicide case, relying on a witness's account that painted the killer as an armored figure with wings, claws, and a metallic-clad ensemble. The description led Dick to suspect Azrael's involvement, while Tim entertained a different theory. Opting to follow their individual instincts, Dick set out to locate Azrael, while Tim retreated to the Batcave for intensive research. Tim's analysis of the victims' profiles unveiled a potential target, steering him toward a different direction. Meanwhile, Dick tracked down Jean-Paul Valley, suspecting him of being the winged assassin. However, Jean-Paul, now residing in a missionary residence for the homeless, proved to be mentally unstable and unfit for the role of a serial killer. Simultaneously, Robin intercepted a potential target just as an ambush loomed. Despite overcoming a pair of thugs, the true assassin arrived, swiftly dispatching the victim and declaring Robin a witness marked for death. It was none other than Steel Jacket. Returning to the Batcave, Dick anticipated Tim's "I told you so" moment for his misjudgment regarding Jean-Paul. Instead, he was met with a surprising revelation: Bruce Wayne, the original Batman, waiting in the shadows. Dick had mixed feelings regarding Bruce's return, while the mystery of Steel Jacket loomed over them and the fate of Tim hung in balance. Always a Batman. Confrontations took place. At one hand, Tim fought Steel Jacket as Robin and struggled to gain his footing with the animalistic armored killer. And on the other, Dick poured all his complaints and self-doubts over Bruce, accusing him of trusting a mad stranger in his place. Steel Jacket made a jump from the building and Robin tagged along, hanging by his grappling rope, while Steel Jacket flew in almost hypersonic speed. In the cave, Bruce assured Dick that he had no time to call Dick. His back broke and he remained in incessant sadness over his allies who had sacrificed themselves for his war on crime. The fact that Dick had created a fresh persona for himself as Nightwing cemented the thought in Bruce that Dick was more than Batman. He had no right to push his mantle on Dick. Dick shouted that he would give his life for Bruce, and Bruce said that he could never ask that from Dick. Meanwhile, Robin went on a non-stop ride tied to Steel Jacket's leg. Bullock and his crew followed them in the car. Robin managed to bring Steel Jacket down, and the police shot at him, but he escaped. In the cave, Bruce surrendered to Dick. He admitted that when their distance grew, Bruce left many things unsaid as he didn't know how to handle the situation. But that was the way between fathers and sons. With this, Nightwing submitted too. They both buried the hatchet and reconciled their differences. Robin arrived at the cave to find Dick in his Nightwing garb, and Bruce donning his Batman costume. It was a newer, darker, classic design but in full black, and Bruce was about to bring in some new changes. Chapter 11. The finale, Troika. The dark side of the Bat. The return of Bruce Wayne as Batman heralded not just a change in the costume, but an ominous shift, symbolizing alterations in his life. In the depths of the Batcave, Batman, alongside Robin and Nightwing, got back to their solemn duty to protect Gotham. They intercepted distressing reports hinting at irregularities involving Russian nuclear weaponry. Promptly, Batman opted to confer with Commissioner Gordon while swiftly targeting the prime suspect, the enigmatic Dark Rider. Meanwhile, within the clandestine confines of the Troika hideout, armed with a nuclear device forged by Troika, the Dark Rider set his sights on a vendetta against America, Gotham, and Batman. Propelled by deeply rooted motivations, he went into the path of vengeance, leaving the Troika. Simultaneously, this sudden power vacuum led to KG Beast assuming leadership within Troika's ranks. Batman and Robin embarked on a quest to unearth the elusive Dark Rider, tracing the trail to Little Odessa, the erstwhile base of Troika's operations. Their pursuit led them to thwart a thug's attempt to bomb Zodchenko's store. Extracting crucial information from the thug, they honed in on the Dark Rider's location. At the Rider's hideout, hired assassins dispatched by Troika were killed by him. Batman and Robin finally faced Rider as he was attempting another assassination. A visceral hand-to-hand combat ensued between Batman and the Rider. The battle reached a climax when the Rider's radiation-induced illness left him vulnerable. Revelations unfolded as Robin unearthed critical intel within the apartment, exposing the Rider's intent to assassinate Colonel Vega. With Gotham's fate tethered to Vega's hands and the looming threat of the nuclear weapon, Batman struggled with an unsettling apprehension about the city's future. The Wild Goose Chase. Batman pressed the Dark Rider for intel on Troika's plans and the nuclear device's location. The Rider's council directed Batman to shadow Colonel Vega, aiming to prevent a looming nuclear disaster. Later, as he confronted a few thugs, they gave up in fear of getting killed. The sins of Jean-Paul still pressed down hard on him. Meanwhile, at Troika's lair, Colonel Vega, KG Beast, and Romana plotted the weapon's use against Batman and America. Unbeknownst to them, the Dark Rider had stealthily concealed the nuclear threat within their very debating chamber. Vega stormed out after KG Beast humiliated him for laughing at them, unaware of the peril lurking nearby. In the daytime, Bruce struggled with mana chores while nighttime heralded his pursuit of Vega. Robin's worry for Oriana's safety compelled Batman to track Vega alone. Aware of being trailed, Vega sought refuge in his hideout, armed with perception-altering gear. A neural disruptor Batman, entering the lair, found his physical abilities compromised by Vega's machine. Vega's henchmen started pummeling Batman as he wasn't able to stand on his feet. However, amidst that brawl, Batman managed to break Vega's neural disruptor. Gaining his senses, Batman subdued all the thugs, but as Vega tried to escape, his brains were blown away by an unknown assailant. With Vega dead and the killer vanished, Batman scoured for clues. Among Vega's possessions, a Wayne Tech card belonging to Lucius Fox hinted at the nuclear device's location. As the police closed in on the location, Batman decided to visit Lucius, the nuclear nemesis. Batman was still working on his motor skills after being a victim to Vega's neural disruptor. He failed to grapple a target with his bat rope and almost fell to his death, if not for Robin. Robin helped dangle Batman to a nearby roof and save his life. Batman was thankful and invited Robin to rearrange the entrance to the Batcave. Meanwhile, at the Troika hideout, the remaining commander of the Trinity, Romana Wyszynski, planned on taking up the biggest companies in Gotham through extortion and fear, and making them their partners. It was there that Vega's nuclear device fell into the clutches of KG Beast. Bruce arranged a meeting with Lucius Fox and thanked him for taking care of Wayne Corp's finances while he was gone. Just at that moment, Romana and her gang barged in. They forced Fox to give them a partnership of 20% from Wayne Corp. When Lucius denied, she ordered KG Beast to unleash hell on Gotham. KG Beast shot rockets and decimated a building. While Robin and GCPD rushed to the site, Bruce Wayne changed into his Batman garb. Robin, Bullock, and Buck zeroed in on KG Beast, but he threw a barrel at Bullock and knocked him unconscious, bleeding to death. KG Beast was unstoppable. He kept shooting and spreading the fiery inferno. He held the nuclear device in his hands and screamed in exuberance as Gotham was plunging towards a fiery death. I am Robin. KG Beast was a literal loose cannon, spreading the fiery mayhem in every direction from where he stood. Bullock was unconscious and losing blood profusely from the wound, with Robin and Buck trying to revive him. KG Beast threatened them with the nuclear device and demanded Batman to be there when he detonated it. Buck took out his shotgun and, without thinking twice, pointed at KG Beast and pulled the trigger. KG Beast fell, disoriented from the shot, but not yet subdued. Robin and Buck carried Bullock away from the fire, and Bullock was going into a coma already. Meanwhile, at the Wayne Corps office, Bruce subdued Romana's thugs as Batman and faced her. While fighting her, Batman kept asking for the nuclear device. On the other hand, Bullock had stopped breathing. Robin gave him CPR and resuscitated him, all the time praying for help. While Buck walked through the fire to look for backup, he found Gordon, Montoya, and Kitch outside the facility and directed them toward Robin as he was all alone. While Robin was standing guard for Bullock, KG Beast attacked. In the altercation, a fuel tank exploded, dousing everything with fire, everywhere. Robin, all alone, took his cape and shrouded himself and Bullock to keep him safe from the flames. KG Beast came at him again. Robin had a chance of using Bullock's firearm, but instead he used his staff and Robin emblem to fight KG Beast. He ripped out KG Beast's cybernetic eye and subdued him. Batman came to his aid and helped by catching the nuclear device. It was our hero Robin who had ultimately saved the day. Finally, Bruce helped Lucius in restructuring the security of his house. Bullock was in a coma but was stable. Bruce had made his costume fireproof and radiation-proof as a learning from his recent encounters. The cave was stylized and made more technologically advanced. The entire Bat family was reunited, and thus it came full circle, and our Batman had finally returned. Marvelous verdict. Jean-Paul Valley was a college student, never meant for the life of Azrael, let alone the Batman. He was pulled into being an avenging angel through a brainwashing program, and then the responsibility of being Batman and fixing an entire broken city was thrust upon him, without the training. In our story, Jean-Paul was not the villain, but rather the tragic hero who didn't have a choice. This proves that only training cannot make a Batman. One has to be tethered to the heart of the city and forged in pain and trauma to get the drive to take on the mantle of Bat, or, like Dick, just follow a previously treaded path. Rest assured, my knights, Jean-Paul revived himself and came back a hero, but that's a story for another time. If you liked this video, please leave your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Until the next crusade.